Good morning. Um, We'll go ahead and call the regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, also sitting as all special tax districts, August 7th, 2023, 9 a.m. To order. Board members will attend either in person, by telephone, or remotely via electronic conferencing. We're here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I'm gonna rearrange the agenda for today. But before I do that, I just want to recognize former supervisor that's sitting with us here, Lenore Stewart. Welcome. And we'll jump in right into the regular public hearing for special use permit case number 23-01. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Anselm Hassett, Senior Planner. Staff provided to the Board of Supervisors a couple of handouts prior to the meeting, and one of those included at the top an email from the agent that requested to formally withdraw special use permit case 2301.
So that's it. No more. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a quick question. Since they've withdrawn it, now if it comes back to the board, it has to go through the whole process again, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So on that, because I have called to the public, and which was I'm gonna do next, but also I can also I'll open up the call to the public or do the public hearing for that item, and I have some speaker cards.
Wait. I don't think you have a
Mr. Chairman, we don't
public
have a
hearing.
public
You-
hearing.
You
The
can't have
item's
a
been
public hearing
withdrawn.
unless you have an item.
So it'll be called to the
Call to the
public.
Right.
Yeah.
Come.
So we'll move on back to the agenda and
Okay.
as it was. And
So we'll go ahead and move back to the agenda, and I'll do the call to the public. And I'm gonna go, I got some speaker forms, and so I'm gonna go in the, how I got them. So Mike Erfurt.
You know, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you don't have to say anything, okay? It's just, it's an open to the public issue. The issue is gone, so just be careful. You may have neighbors that like them or something.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Mike Erfurt, 7942 East 38th Street, Yuma. Hey, just to kind of, we know where we got here. In June, there was a continuance that was to be able to have a July public outreach by the applicant. And as we know that even though they claimed extensive public outreach, they felt it was necessary to do that because the public outrage was starting to build. As the time approached for the public meeting, awareness and opposition continued to grow, and ultimately, just before the meeting was to take place, it was canceled. The owner instead appeared on a local radio show to answer public concerns and take questions. He did appear, but with a chemical engineer and environmental specialist, or he didn't appear with a chemical engineer and environmental specialist. He did appear with his lawyer and a member of the PR firm. More questions were asked than were answered, but we did find out the owner didn't live in Yuma. He's a California resident, and he found the owner believed the opposition was due to this matter becoming political. Opposition continued to grow with a Facebook group forming, other things going on. the LEPC got more information to be able to discuss at their meeting, and local and state media focused on the topic. In July, there was a fire at the facility, which received much community attention. Several press releases came out from the applicant pointing out how well the situation was handled, and then last weekend, a press release was sent out pointing out how cooperative they've been with the entities involved in the process. But then we found out an unscheduled inspection had been done at the facility by ADEQ in late July due to complaints that they'd received. And a public records request was made to provide to the LEPC. In reviewing that report, I was concerned at the lack of cooperation from the facility manager. He was observed to be visibly upset, according to the report, and not able or willing to provide requested documentation on materials present. The amounts of materials marked hazardous waste were also concerned, readily visible to the inspectors. And the explanation that this is because they're only considered hazardous waste in California, but not once they get to Arizona. Another concern was the facility was unable to tell fire responders what chemicals or substances were involved in the fire. Also noted in the report were that those California hazardous waste materials currently received by the applicant are going to the Copper Mountain landfill in Welton. So it would seem that California hazardous waste has already been going into Yuma County landfills. A guest column was printed in Friday's Yuma Sun, authored by the same facility manager who was visibly upset with ADEQ and seemed to be in conflict with details now available to the public in the ADEQ report. Later that day, the permit was withdrawn. I hope this is the end of the matter and additional legal maneuvering won't be taken by the applicant. Lawyers and PR people might hold a lot of sway in California, but this is Yuma, Arizona, and our small town identity is still alive and well. We're working to better keep the LEPC in the loop regarding future hazardous materials matters so we can provide timely, accurate feedback to the public and other agencies involved. We appreciate the time and attention given this matter by the Board of Supervisors. We know you took this matter seriously and listened to the citizens of Yuma County. And we know that you'll continue to do that in the future. And I think that's one of the reasons this permit was pulled. So we'd like to thank you very much.
Corey Schultz? No? You're good? Okay. Melissa Hilpert? Good, thanks. Richard Medeiros?
My name is Richard Medeiros, 6045 East 43rd Street, Yuma, Arizona. I came here to speak about, of course, the special use permit. Okay. It was said by the applicant that he did everything he was supposed to do in informing the public of the permit application, and he did. The county only requires that people within 300 feet be notified. Okay. There was a notice put in the newspaper. Okay. His comment was nobody ever said anything about that in their comments against them. And that was true also. Okay. 11 were sent out, no answers from 11. The public outcry for this only took place after the Planning and Zoning Board put approval to pass it on to the board for approval of a special use permit. Then people of the county, based on a TV channel and the items that were brought up at that meeting, did people in the county get involved? The city was already involved, okay, and other people in the county were involved, but the public in general really didn't know about it, okay? And I understand that the county cannot inform every person of everything that's going on here when it's a small little matter. We have some items that are small here today that only affect people within maybe 300 feet or a half a mile, okay? But when you have something as large of the special use permit that's going to affect the whole county, okay, we need a better way to get this information out. I've talked to Dave Miller, general manager of our television stations, and he told me that they would be interested in putting out public service announcements, okay? All we need for the county to do is amend what they do as far as putting out announcements and getting over to our TV channel and our radio channel to have a public service announcement for the meetings that you're holding, okay? And a brief description, not the long description that you put out. I'm on your list, so I get what you have, okay? Your last meeting was over 300 and some pages long, okay? Most people aren't gonna read all that. A lot of people aren't gonna sit there and read the items, okay? Because it takes so long just to find out the agenda items, okay? Just a quick little line item, permit for special use permit under consideration. Boom, boom, boom. That's what's going to be discussed. That would help the people a lot of this county to be aware of this earlier and not have this public outcry and everything that's gone on since, you know, this television interview that went on in the news. So I'm just asking for the county to please adjust the way you notify things to the people. Give the people of the county a chance early on to comment. Get more information to the Planning and Zoning Commission to make sure that they know what's going on. They had no answers, okay? Nobody wanted anything, so they didn't know how to look at or what answers or what questions to ask the applicant. If you have more people early on giving their concerns over it, then maybe the Planning and Zoning people could ask some questions that were never answered. As far as I know, no one ever asked the applicant, what's the advantage to Yuma County? I've asked that question of the Planning and Zoning Department. I've never gotten an answer, okay? Nobody ever answered my question of what is wrong with this? Is there a problem with this in the county? Nobody ever asked the applicant this. These are questions that need to be answered, and they can only be answered before the Planning and Zoning Commission decides to approve something and pass it on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Gail Castricone?
Mike, I would like you on my advocacy team. Good morning. My name is Gail Castricone. I am the neighborhood advocate for the Avenue B and C Colonia Butterfly Project. I was having such a wonderful time on our family vacation in Connecticut until my daughter saw the news feed online that there was another homicide on 5th Street and May Avenue by Bond. We have been trying to work with county since 2005 when we were doing the sewer project. At that time, we had our first cleanup in the history of the Avenue B and C Colonia. It was a great success, except for people who chose not to participate. I asked county staff if those people were going to be written up for code violations. Staff told me that there were just too many and they would not be able to get that many to come into compliance. And they were right. Since 2005, many of these properties are still out of compliance, including Van Park. Our committee decided to focus on one area at a time. We chose 5th Street, Vaughn Avenue, and May Avenue. In 2021, Van Park was turned in. At that time, county tagged 28 trailers uninhabitable. August 1st, 2022, they were taken before the hearing officer. So here we are, no closer to resolve than we were with 3 homicides in 2022 and 2 homicides in 2023. We have got to find a way for code enforcement and law enforcement to work more effectively so that this kind of devastating situation with Van Park will not be allowed to happen again. I have heard from DDS and Sheriff's Department over the years that they are understaffed for the amount of territory that they are expected to cover. This should never be the case for code enforcement and law enforcement. Safety of the public should always be our very main priority. We need to spend our money where it counts. It is great to build new buildings and wonderful parks, but people don't live there. They just go to visit. The people who live in Van Park are surrounded, and the surrounding areas live there 24/7 in dirty and unsafe environments. The children have no safe place to take walks or play. How traumatic it must be for these children to wake up to gunshots and sirens and learn that another person has died. Slumlords victimize people with no remorse. They are very well educated and profiting in areas like the BNC Colonia. We ask that these horrific and appalling living conditions will no longer be tolerated. The people that are in compliance with the county codes and pay their taxes have a right to a clean and safe environment. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Gail.
And I love the fire department and the police department. God bless.
Walt Benet? Beno?
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I am Walt Bonneau. I live at 14698 East 40th Place in Las Broncos, what we call the eastern part of the foothills. First of all, I'd like to open this up with a bit of thank you to the BOS, and particularly Mr. Simmons, for listening and understanding our constituency and our community in regards to Text Amendment 2301 and the rezoning of this rather large area, referred sometimes as the 400 or 500 acre area. Second of all, we want to thank Mr. Reyes for his incredible, well-articulated logic during the meeting during March, where he, in essence, informed not only Mr. Dahl, Granite LLC, the Planning and Development Office, about the future of approving such things by not biting off such a large piece of the apple in order to get things done and to not turn the community unnecessarily against you. And lastly, on this for the District BOS is Ms. Pancrazzi for taking the time to actually listen to the community's concerns and actually walk the subject area to determine firsthand the situation. Not too many people get out of their car and walk through a pile of sand for a while. So again, thank you for the three of you that provided that. And lastly, to the commission chair, Danny Bryant, for working with the community. At first, he was actually in opposition of us rejecting this, but as he was instructed, he worked rather effectively to, in essence, create modifications to RVS, is what we called AKA the RVS-5. In his sections of rewritten with the commission 609.02 and 609.04. So with that, I want to just make one comment that we hope that all passes through. We have no opposition to that. We just simply are requesting that in the future that there is an error, if you will, with the minimum lot size of 2,400 square feet, which would have been 6,250. Otherwise, there's no way that works with the 5 parcels per acre. On another issue real quick here, I realize my time's running out. I want to bring this to your attention for future considerations of development in the foothills, is we're still having water problems, we're still having sewer problems, and the road situation is we're not looking forward to the next winter arrival on what happens on South Frontage and parts of 15E. If you notice, there's some signs that have been knocked down, run over. The last little mini monsoon did a little bit of damage, but not much. The system handled it. I'll be done here in 10 seconds. And so our problem with the water is our declining pressure. As more homes are added and coming online, we're now less than 30 PSI. Our RO systems are failing in the morning. They cannot operate with less than 35 PSI. We know that Darren Simmons brought in the chief engineer from the new water company, but he promised they were going to try to put in bigger and better pumps. Well, maybe that's in the works, but it ain't happened. And we're now 6 months into this, and I measured just last week with my gauges 28 PSI at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if you ever try to take a shower with that kind of PSI, but it basically drools out and your RO goes into I'm stopping. Okay, and the only last thing I wanted to mention, that in regards to Dahl and Granite LLC coming forth, we don't want to raise any more real opposition based on the fact we got the RVS as we did. But we are still against one aspect of it, the fact that he added the 14.1 high-density R3 zoning in there is the only thing we're really in objection to. With that, I thank you all.
Thank you, Walt. Kayla Franklin?
I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Anybody else call to the public?
You know that face, huh? You know this guy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, I just want to read Section 61404 under the Heavy Industrial Zoning District of the Yuma County Zoning Ordinance. It reads, in the matter of the Citgo property, outdoor storage of materials is prohibited, except that materials may be stored outdoors if concealed from view by screening from public or private roadways. I drove by there this morning. The property is in violation of this section of the ordinance. So just to remind you that even though this is being withdrawn, the property still needs to be brought into compliance with the Yuma County zoning ordinance. And I will be making an official complaint later this week to address stuff that's still pending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public for the call to the public? Well, just as information out there, I want to thank all Yuma County that came together for something like this. I just want to let you know that California looks at Arizona like a dumping area, and it's been going on for many, many years. As a former mayor from city of Somerton, I fought, and still fighting for all the solid waste that is being dumped up on the mesa, very close to the city of Somerton, very close to the city of San Luis. And since 2005, 2004, I've been doing that and by myself. I'm glad that now everybody's seeing this, what's going on, and that you're coming together. But it's not us that are letting that, it's the state. So when you only look at your local elected officials, and sometimes we can't deal or do anything because the state has allowed it for so many years. So start paying attention on those and start letting your representatives that we're not a dumping ground for California or any other state. Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay. I'd like to, this is just the beginning, and all of us in Yuma County need to be aware that biosolids, septage, hazardous waste, solar panels, the leftovers from windmills. The state of California is trying to be green on our backs. And we, as a board, have worked very hard to try and prevent that. And we need your help, because you may see things that we don't see, or you may hear things that we don't hear. And if you do, we need to hear about it. And so we need to work just like we did on this project on all future attempts to use Yuma County as a dumping ground. So from any state. So we need your help, and we need you to continue to be diligent. So we appreciate what you've done. We appreciate all the help you've given us. And if we work together like we did on this project, we will keep Yuma County, the Yuma County that we know and love.
I just wanted to take a second to talk about what this board has done. Last year, we sponsored in our Arizona State County meeting legislation
that we forwarded to the legislature, and Representative Tim Dunn carried that water for us. It was actually watered down, but the governor did sign it, one of the few that she didn't veto, to where we have a little bit more control about what's coming into Yuma County. The challenge is that the State Land Trust rents out land to different people, and we have no say as a county. So we are looking for ways to be able to have control, but this board has been unanimous looking for those solutions and asking our legislators to look for a way to mitigate Yuma being a dumping ground for California in what is current and what is proposed in the future, because of the way that they have classified everything as being a carcinogen. So we just want you guys to know that we are unanimously working together to keep more of that waste from being brought into our county.
Mr. Chairman. I just want to reiterate, I can't count the number of emails and texts that I got from the community about this, expressing their opinion. And that's what we need to hear as a group. We need to hear from our constituents as to how they feel about different issues. I know we're in the process of trying to work out ways to get the word out better, looking at new ways to address the issues that were brought up as far as notifying the community and the public. So, but this one issue, like I said, I tried to respond to every email and every text I get, just thanking them for expressing their concerns, because that's what we need to hear. And to be able to deal with these issues for county-wide, we need to get the community involved, because you're our eyes and ears out there. Sometimes we miss something, and we need to hear it from you. If you have an issue, let us know, because then it puts it on our radar so we can delve into it a little more. And so, thank you.
All right, I'll go ahead and leave on the call to the public, like I said, and we'll go ahead and move on to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. Any proclamations, or promotions, appointments? None.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
We'll move on to consent calendar. The following items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and enacted upon by one motion.
No
Do we
county
have
line?
No county line, right?
Pardon the interruption. We do have a brief county line.
Yeah, Yuma County line, yes.
Yuma County leaders unite for a pivotal meeting, unveiling progress and future plans. The Health District's back-to-school immunization clinics are now open to the public. And discover how Yuma's law intern program molds aspiring attorneys, unleashing their full legal potential. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Yuma County leaders unite for a pivotal meeting, unveiling progress and future plans. The Health District's back-to-school immunization clinics are now open to the public. And discover how Yuma's law intern program molds aspiring attorneys, unleashing their full legal potential. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Yuma County recently held its quarterly management team meeting. bringing together key members to discuss important topics related to development and progress. The meeting emphasized transparency, efficiency, and collaboration with elected officials, department directors, and management staff from all departments. They engaged in discussions on various subjects, including the upcoming compensation studies, building projects, and communications division updates. County Administrator Ian McGahey presented a progress update on items discussed during the long-term planning roundtable and announced the formation of the Strategic Plan Committee. The meeting's insights play a crucial role in shaping Yuma County's future initiatives. Yuma County Health District is gearing up for a safe return to school with the launch of back-to-school immunization clinics, open to the public. These clinics offer a wide range of required vaccines, aiming to boost immunization rates and protect against preventable diseases.
It's very important because as your kids get out there, these diseases are still there. We still have measles, mumps, and rubella, pertussis. These things are out there, so we want to make sure your kids are up to date and protected when they get back to school.
The initiative enjoys strong support from local education officials, emphasizing the crucial role of vaccinations in preventing outbreaks and ensuring in-person learning. For more information on the required documents and appointments, visit the Health District's program page or call 928-317-4550. Yuma County's Legal and Public Defender's Office initiated a program 17 years ago to aid legal hopefuls and attract attorneys to the area. In 2006, employees of the Legal and Public Defender's Office identified a pressing issue: the challenge of attracting attorneys to relocate and practice law in the area. To address this, they embarked on developing a program with dual benefits for prospective attorneys and for the county government.
We currently have 3, I believe, attorneys working for Yuma County that were prior interns. Plus we have a number of attorneys who are here that have worked for the legal defender or public defender and now are working for their own as private attorneys or for other organizations here in Yuma. So it really has brought attorneys to Yuma.
This year, 2 intern attorneys from Arizona State University participated in the program with the hope of inspiring some to return to Yuma post-graduation.
Everybody has been amazing. The staff is amazing. It feels like a family. Everyone's willing to help out, and it's also been a fun environment, and as well as getting down to business.
For more information on the Legal or Public Defender's Office, visit our webpage at yumacountyaz.gov and search under the Government tab.
I'm Elia Juarez, and this is your library update. Save the date, because one of our all-time favorite programs is returning to the Yuma County Library and the historic Yuma Theater. It's something our community looks forward to every single year. The Manhattan Short Film Festival will be returning this year on Wednesday, September 27th at 6:30 p.m. at the historic Yuma Theater. It's free and open to the public, and you'll not only get to see a variety of short films, but you'll also get to vote on the favorite one of our community. So we hope to see you there. For more information on the Manhattan Short Film Festival or for any other of our wonderful programs that we offer, make sure to check out our website at yumalibrary.org and follow us across all our social media platforms.
Before we head out, we want to share some achievements made around the county. ADEQ recognized Yuma County Public Works with a certificate for their commitment to continuous environmental improvement, exceeding statutory requirements, and fostering a cleaner, livable community. Congratulations! Also, we want to congratulate Angela Pancrazi Moreno, Yuma County Treasurer, on being selected as Treasurer for the National Association of County Collectors, Treasurers, and Finance Officers, a professional organization aiming to assist government members in better service. Thank you for being part of the County Line. As we bid farewell to this segment, Yuma 77 is excited to reimagine our show with new faces and fresh perspectives. During our break, stay connected with us by visiting Yuma County's Facebook and webpage. As always, for past stories, visit our website yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. We look forward to returning with an exciting new segment, and we appreciate your continued support.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless the board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for a separate discussion and action.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask that number 12 be discussed separately, and I make a motion to approve our consent items 1 through 11.
I'll second that, 1 through 11.
There's a motion and a second to approve items 1 through 11 on consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12.
Is the award the contract for the Rio subdivision payment to Gutierrez Canales Engineering PC in the amount of $144,260.45, and authorize the county engineer to sign the contract subject to legal review. Is the county engineer here at all?
No.
Frank left? Oh, sorry. I'm gonna try to open it up a little bit. I just wanted to know if I thought we had a mailing contractor to do all the mailing for the county. Is this because it's a specific subdivision and it's gonna be charged separately, or is this a county project? And are we going to be doing this private mailing processes to more projects in the county?
I prefer to have the county engineer answer that. Because of the overflow, he's in another room.
Oh.
And so he's making his way.
Oh, he's making his way in.
Unless-
Well, like I said, I'm just trying to define this a little, Mr. Scott. I thought we had a contract to do mailing, to do that kind of work.
Here he comes.
Here comes Frank.
Hi, Frank.
I'll defer to Frank.
Yeah, you see, that's why you should be out here, because you never know.
No, he will go.
I know, he was in the overflow room.
Yeah.
So the question was, I thought we had a mailing contract with, like a general mailing contract, where we do all the mailing, all the stuff as part of a state contract, or as part of a contract that we bid out at the beginning of the year. That's not the case. We do individual.
Chairman Porches, members of the board, Frank Sanchez, county engineer. No, we don't have a general mailing contract with the state. This is a CIP project where we bid the project out completely. They'll mail, they'll pay.
Right. So no, we don't have a general contract at the beginning of the year. What we have is a material contract?
That is on the maintenance side of Public Works. They do procure materials for maintenance, not reconstruction.
Okay. So if we're going to do a reconstruction of a paved road, we normally contract it out.
We bid it out.
You bid it out.
Correct.
So the bid that we have originally is just for materials?
Yes.
If we need them. All right, got it. That's it. I just wanted to get some clarification. I was a little confused about the process.
Remember, we don't do 1-year contracts over 1 year?
It's
Not just kidding. We'll leave it at that.
Don't get him going.
I'm going to refrain from answering that particular question. If there's any complaints, I take over the meeting. Thank you, Frank. That's all. I just wanted to get that clear out. I'll make a motion. We approve item 12 as presented.
I'll
Second. Go ahead.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve item 12 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to Housing Governing Board consent calendar.
You have to close this meeting
we
and
got,
open it? Close it.
They do.
The
Recent,
following
yeah,
item
recent.
is listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless the board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from consent calendar for separate discussion and action. I'll do a,
I didn't want to do this, but aren't we supposed to recess the other meeting and open up a new meeting?
well, I'll just open or go into this one but we need a motion.
All right.
I move that we go into our Housing Governing Board meeting.
No motion is required.
All right. Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve the consent item. I see Chewy over there, and he's.
I'll
thinking
second.
like- So,
Oh, you can second.
oh, yeah, you can second it. It's a pretty quick motion.
You're
We
supposed to.
went into this meeting, so
Okay.
we're in it now, so.
You're supposed to be involved there. Go ahead.
Or let her make the motion, Tony, come on.
Well, I was trying to be quick about it. Okay, well, the motion, there's one motion, it's a consent item, so if we pull it out and discuss it, it's going to not be a consent item. So the motion is just to adopt and authorize the chairman to sign resolution 223 or 2023-28, approving the certification of Section 8 Management Assessment Program for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023 for the Housing Department as per HUD Title 24, Chapter 9, Part 985.101, and the Section 8 Management Asset Program, which is CMAP. Would you like care to make a motion?
There's a motion.
And a second.
And a second.
Right.
There's a motion and a second for item number 1 to adopt and authorize the chairman to sign resolution 2023-28. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That was it, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Oye, ahí va.
Bueno, no, llégale. Tú tienes la culpa, estaba callado. It's his fault, I was very quiet, very calm, relaxed.
All right.
That's a good idea.
Went on to discussion and action items.
Chairman, at this
You have
point,
to
you
share.
would adjourn as the housing board
Okay.
reconvenes.
He's trying to do it all like that.
All right, we'll go ahead and
Tony, you're flustered.
take a, I'll accept a motion to
There's
return
no-
back to the regular board.
I
There's no
move that
motion
we
needed.
adjourn our
There's no
housing,
Mr. Chairman, you don't need you. As chairman, you can adjourn the board,
Just
housing
adjourn
board,
it.
and reconvene.
Okay.
We'll return it to a regular board meeting and move on to discussion and action item. Item number 1, county administration, construction management. That's,
Okay.
Dave?
Good morning.
Good
Chairman
morning.
Porteous, members of the board, Dave Dillon, the Construction Projects Director. Here this morning with something a little bit different than usual. Normally, I'm here asking you to authorize spending money or something like that. About 6 weeks ago or so, had this thought, I guess, as we were wrapping up the demolition portion of the project across the way and all through demolition and even back through early planning of this project, I was aware of the fact that we were working on a building that had formerly been owned and operated by Mr. Eugene Francis Sanguinetti, E.F. Sanguinetti. I'm going to let this play in the background, just some images of the building across the street. And it occurred to me, of course, as things often do, about 3 in the morning one night, that it might be appropriate to consider recommending the name of the auditorium in the Board of Supervisors auditorium in the new Yuma County Administration Services building after E.F. Sanguinetti. And originally the thought was really basically geographical, thinking about the new building on the site of Mr. Sanguinetti's former place of business. As I was preparing this item for this discussion, and thinking it through a little bit, I had the good fortune of speaking a couple of times with E.F. Sanguinetti's grandson, Mr. Bruce Wynn, who is here with us this morning. And through that process, learning a tremendous amount about the life and work of Mr. Sanguinetti. And I realized that my reasonings for making this recommendation are much deeper and broader than what they were originally. I wanted to share just a few words from some meeting minutes, actually, that were shared with me. The E.F. Sanguinetti Incorporation met actually on the site of our project across the street as their headquarters, 197 South Main Street, January 4th, 1946, to recognize the life after the passing of Mr. Sanguinetti in December 1945. And if you haven't had a chance to see this document, I strongly recommend it. I'd be happy to share it with you. It's fairly lengthy. It's about 6-7 pages. Certainly won't read through the whole thing at this point in time, but I want to call attention to some highlights. To begin with, Mr. Sanguinetti was born in Coulterville, California in May of 1867. At the age of 16, he came to what was described as an undeveloped and raw Yuma with virtually nothing in his pockets, went to work for Mr. John Gandolfo. And that was his foray into the mercantile business. And he rapidly moved up through the business, eventually managing it and taking over ownership of it. And that opened his doors to many other business exploration from there. That was really just the start of what I would call an extensive and highly successful business development journey. That included such things as the development of the Yuma Ice Company. This, in my mind alone, as I'm reading through this list, I'm thinking, wow, this by itself could be an entire career for a normal individual, if you will. The Yuma Ice Company became the largest ice manufacturing plant in all of Arizona and one of the largest in the country. And you think about the importance of ice at that point in time, before refrigeration, before cooling. He also established the first mortuary in Yuma. He was involved with the construction of power lines, providing power to rural areas of Yuma and Welton Valley. He was deeply involved with the development of quality dairy farms in Yuma County, sending individuals to New York to bring back some of the best stock so that Yuma would have some of the best dairy farms in the country. And he went further than that. Those farmers that weren't able to afford to import dairy stock, he provided financial assistance to allow them to do so. He was involved with the development, he oversaw the development of Yuma's first creamery in 1917. And this one I was completely unaware of: construction and expansion of the irrigation canal system all throughout Yuma County, working with business partner John Mulligan, feeding Yuma Valley from the Laguna Dam, and once again assisting farmers financially who could not contribute to the cost of developing land to bring water to their farms. He grub-staked men. I had to Google what grub-staked even meant, but provide backing and finance and equipment to prospectors going to Bard Valley, which led to the development of that area. The development of the grapefruit industry in Yuma County, he was involved with that, influenced and financed the expansion of the lettuce industry across the county, leading to what we see today as one of the top producers of lettuce in the country, on the planet, really. He influenced the development of transcontinental railroad and highway systems passing through Yuma, coming through on a promise that he had made to place Yuma on the crossroads of America. He was involved with the rerouting of the railroad off of Madison Avenue over this way and around onto an elevated levee to prevent future flooding of those rail lines, while also allowing for further development of the downtown Yuma core. He was involved with the establishment of a large post office, making the argument that Yuma needed a larger post office than what was being proposed, again, down in the heart of downtown Yuma. And lastly, not lastly, but lastly on this list anyway, he was one of the organizers and developers of the Yuma Fire Department, as he had experienced many fires in his own businesses. And he took it farther than that. He researched and studied new and advanced methods of firefighting and made sure that new firefighters received that training to better respond to fire emergencies throughout the city and throughout the county. And today, as a matter of fact, the Yuma Fire Department has an award that they give out in his name, under his honor. At one point in time, Mr. Sanguinetti became the largest individual taxpayer in the city and the county of Yuma. He was also the largest employer in the county. At one point, he owned and operated 21 stores. 21 stores. Besides, this is in addition to his work in the ice industry, farming, dairy, and other business enterprises. Before his passing, he fulfilled a promise to pass along ownership of his many businesses to his senior employees and staff, which is symbolic of the giving and generous man that he was. I want to read again from these meeting minutes, the last paragraph for you, which really I think sums it up really nicely. The life of Mr. Sanguinetti is symbolic of our county and of the unlimited opportunities for those like Mr. Sanguinetti who have ability and an indomitable spirit, keen foresight and faith in all good things. One must have love of one's fellow man just as Mr. Sanguinetti loved his associates and friends. It is the same spirit that has symbolized the spirit of all pioneers. Yuma of today is symbolic of the fine spirit of Mr. Sanguinetti, and the spirit of Mr. Sanguinetti and Yuma of today are one and the same. The passing of Mr. Sanguinetti was the passing of an era of history of Yuma. Yuma of today, her rich fields, dams, canals, streets, buildings, churches, and schools stand as an everlasting monument to his untiring efforts. I see a connection between our construction project at 197 South Main Street and Mr. Sanguinetti, not just in physical location, but in that the building and the Board of Supervisor auditorium in particular serve as the heart of county government operations. In much the same way that Mr. Sanguinetti made a terrific impact on the development and life of Yuma, so too I would anticipate that many great events, challenging discussions, and important decisions that have the potential to greatly impact the lives of citizens of Yuma County for years to come will originate from the Board of Supervisor auditorium and the new YCAS facility. For that reason, I feel it's appropriate to recommend to the board the naming of the auditorium after the late Yuma pioneer, Mr. E.F. Sanguinetti. You've seen some slides passing by on the screen above. Just to highlight right here, you see the rendering, the entrance into the auditorium. I don't know if I can
Right, Mr. Chairman.
steal control? Okay. There's another great document too, many of you are probably familiar with it. Quick summary. Matter of fact, I'm thinking maybe something like this with a portrait of him outside of the supervisor auditorium may be appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
I love this. The Studebaker Wagons and Carriages store at the site. At the time of the 1916 flood, of course, you can see the flood in the foreground. And here from another angle, the complete home furnishing, somewhere around the early 1930s, I believe.
So your recommendation there was to name it?
Correct, and I've provided a couple of instances, examples in there. Certainly you may choose from them or any other. I would like to ask if you don't mind, I'd like to ask if Mr. Bruce Quinn and or.
Why don't we do this and then let the family,
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
I think I'm ready to make a motion that we name the.
No, but let's hear from Mr. Nguyen and, or
Let's Gwen and Lenore.
All right.
unless they want,
Well, wait.
Either way, if you want to choose first and then have them come up, or other way around.
Sure, they,
I would say,
let them
you know,
talk.
when you're ahead, you could. But, yeah, you can say.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Before
Lenore.
you start, Lenore,
Board, it's nice to be on this side of the aisle.
I don't know about that. Let me back it up. Look, whatever you're going to say is yes, and you know that already, so. you know.
Yes, we're going to say yes.
Say a few words.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. It is really so fitting to honor those who have made such an enormous and positive impact on our community and indeed upon the state in the early years. I heartily support the naming of a building after the grandson-in-law of Jose Maria Redondo, Mr. E.F. Sanguinetti. Thank you.
Grandson-in-law.
In-law.
I am Bruce Quinn, grandson of E.F. Sanguinetti. He came here in 1883 when he was 16, and I'm only 74, so how'd that happen? He didn't get married until he was 50, so there's a couple of generations that should have happened.
Wow.
But I will say that I asked my mother, why did he stop here in 1883? There was nothing but adobe huts and mosquitoes galore. And she said because he was a visionary and he could see opportunity. And from what Mr. Highland said, you will see that he had tremendous vision. And he worked hard at it, as all our pioneers did. But the other thing he did, as all our pioneers did, he capitalized on the opportunities, but he also made this a great place to raise our kids, raise us, raise our kids, educate them, and do all those things that's why I'm standing here today. So because of this consideration, I want to thank you very much for doing this. I know my brothers, Tim and Howard, and my sisters, Hillary and Alexis, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and there's a great one coming, not grand, but niece or nephew, we don't know yet, in December. So in their names, thank you very much for considering this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Is would it be appropriate just to name it the Sanguinetti meeting or E.F. Sanguinetti?
Yes.
E.F. Sanguinetti, okay, the full name.
He was known as E.F. Sanguinetti, boss, and by the kids, once in a while, father.
Okay, well then, I'll make a motion, we go ahead and name the auditorium the E.F. Sanguinetti Auditorium.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to name the Board of Supervisors Auditorium. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dave. Moving on, item number 2. Thank you, Lenore. Administration Grants Division, discuss and provide direction for the Environmental Protection Agency Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund Solar for All programs, A and B.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Today I want to discuss exciting opportunity to increase solar access and promote sustainability through the EPA solar grant program. The solar grant opportunity is being offered by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and it aims to promote the adoption of clean energy solutions, specifically solar power in communities across the United States. The primary objective is to increase solar energy and deployment in disadvantaged communities, leading in reduced energy costs, improved air quality, and enhanced community resilience. So today I'm asking for you all to consider signing a letter of intent, which will help us be put in line to be able to apply for this application. So it's just a letter of intent right now. It's not the actual application. The actual application is not due until October 5th.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Question. Is the application supposed to be so that we can make available solar to low-income and middle-income families, or is it to do something that the county, for example, at the county housing or something, or is it a combination of both?
It is a solar program that we would bring to Yuma County. It could be in conjunction with our housing rehabilitation program. We can run it the same way, but it would be we would have to consider how we're going to shape that program if you consider bringing it to Yuma County.
So is the answer yes or no? I mean, look, what I'm asking is simple. Are we going to ask for a grant or a subsidy to be able to have low-income people access that? Or are we going to be asking for a grant or subsidy that will also apply to, areas like, subsidized housing that we have in the county? I understand that you're saying it will apply to rehabilitation program, for example, because most people who qualify for the rehabilitation program are going to be able to, so I hope, qualify for this program. But what I'm interested in finding out is whether that sort of grant or subsidy can be used for facilities the county has that serve low income.
Mr. Chair, my understanding is we can write it any way we want once we are approved, correct?
If we are awarded.
If we are awarded it, we can say it can be only homeowners, it can be homeowners and subsidized.
Was it yes?
Yeah.
So yes, if this Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, if we would get awarded, this would be for low-income families, residential. It could also affect public housing, and it could affect community facilities that help the low-income in the low-income areas.
So this is just a letter of intent, which means we will be applying in September, sometime in September. But this has to be in before August, the middle of August sometime.
Yes.
So what we're doing right now is simply sending a letter saying we're interested, and then we would be applying and competing with the whole country in terms of providing solar energy, so the ability to access solar.
Yeah, this is a really competitive grant. They're only going to grant 60 awards throughout the entire United States, including territories and tribes. So this grant is extremely competitive, and we did learn recently that the state applied. They submitted a letter of intent, but I don't know what their strategy is. I've reached out to them. They haven't replied yet, but we're going to see if they are going to include the entire state of Arizona. But,
I wouldn't count on it anyway. Just submit it yourself.
State of America.
Now, it's a $7 billion program. It seems to me 60 applications approved. It's really, it's an overwhelming number. I hope they look at that. I mean, unless you're going to apply for $600 million to do solar, it'd be, states are going to be competitive because they're going to apply for a program that applies statewide. Be cognizant of that when you make the application.
yeah, so the programs are a small program, a medium program, and a large program, and the minimum to apply for is $25 million. So for Yuma County, we would be applying for $25 million. Mm-hmm. Because we're a smaller community. We have to get about 10,000 homes with that funding, up to 10,000 homes. So
Well, that's more than glad to go ahead and support it.
Yes, I agree.
Mr. Chairman,
So, yes, go ahead.
do we then become the utility, and are we then competing with, for example, the utility companies that are providing power to the homes?
That's however you would want to shape the program, and we could partner with utility companies, we can partner with nonprofits. That would be however we would like to shape the program. So
I don't think you got the gist of the question. The gist of the question was whether this will be competing with the private sector.
Correct.
Which is not really what I think you would.
No.
The answer is no.
It'll-
No, I don't think she gets it anyway.
But if we're,
Houses will still have to apply, or
okay,
families.
okay.
Right, so you did a motion? I'll go ahead and make a motion. We
There's
send a
two.
letter.
So you want a motion for intent, notice of intent, and then to submit an application? So, okay.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion, we approve the item as submitted, and with clarification that we'll be looking at whether that implies us becoming a sort of a utility company, which I don't think we will. I think we're gonna qualify these people, they're gonna continue to be hooked up to the power company.
Yes.
The power company is going to have to be made aware that either they do it or it's just a way for people to save and cost energy. And I think at this particular time, the one that supplies us, APS, is probably getting a little overwhelmed with the heat. So it may provide a bit of relief for that situation until they can catch up a little bit.
This is just a letter of intent.
Yeah, this
We'll
is-
get more info as.
It's gonna be tough to.
This is just to say that we're interested.
just say that we're interested, yes. Without it, we won't be able to apply. We won't be able to
You
submit
know,
an
it should help
application.
us that we have more sun than anything else, I think, in Yuma County.
And then, yes, our disadvantaged areas are also going to be.
Right, so I made the motion.
Is it weighted because of our disadvantaged areas?
It will be, yes.
Hopefully.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second to submit a notice of intent and also to submit an application for the solar for all program. Any other discussion or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the planning and zoning agenda. Regular public hearing items, staff will make a full presentation on each of the following items, followed by separate discussion, public hearing and action of the Board of Supervisors. Item number 1. Planning and Zoning Division, public hearing, rezoning case number 23-03.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting rezoning case 2303, which is continued from July 3rd, 2023. The applicant requested to continue that case to this meeting since they were having conversations with the engineering department. This is a request to rezone a parcel that is 6.72 gross acres in size from rural area 5-acre minimum to suburban side 2-acre minimum, located in the Yuma Mesa planning area on the northwest corner of Avenue 4E and County 16th Street. The intent of the applicant is to create 2 parcels for residential development. In front of you is the zoning and vicinity map showing the subject parcel highlighted in red. Properties access on the west along Corso Caballo Lane and through a private access easement on parcel 27. Parcel is currently zoned RA5 and is a vacant parcel. Parcel 1 and 37 on the north and northwest are zoned planned development. Parcel 27, 26, 28, and 29 are zoned R140. Improved with site-built dwellings with the exception of parcel 26. Parcel 5 on the south is on RA5, it's a vacant parcel. And parcel number 3 to the east is on RA10, improved with the site-built. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant, how it plans to divide the property into 2 parcels, 2.18 acres on the west and 4 gross acres on the east. This is the aerial view showing outlined in red the subject parcel, current development of the area. This is a view looking east at access point from Corso Caballo. Closer look at the access point driveway. And this is the existing access easement. Provides access to the 2 parcels on the north, south, and also on the east. This is a view looking northeast at the subject parcel from the southwest corner. Now looking southwest at the subject parcel from the northeast corner. No comments received from property owners within the zoning area. We received comments from the Bureau of Reclamation, Marine Air Corps, Air Station Yuma and Yuma County Treasurer's Office. The Planning Commission recommends denial of the request of rezoning case number 2303, but if it's approved by the Board of Supervisors, staff recommends attaching the following conditions. Performance condition number 1, within 60 days of approval by the board, the owner of the unit shall do the following: provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an infrastructure disclosure statement, record a navigation disclosure statement, as well as record a range disclosure statement, an agricultural disclosure statement, and finally record a schedule for development disclosure statement. Also, the following is schedule for development. Within 5 years of approval by the board and prior to approval of the land division permit, the owner shall acquire an egress easement 20 feet in width to provide physical and legal access from owner parcel 74763/27, or provide an alternate means of physical and legal access. Number 2, within 5 years approval by the board and prior to approval of the land division permit, the owner shall apply for a grading permit with the Yuma County Engineering Department to improve the egress easement in a dust-free condition by application of ABC covered by a penetration and chip seal, well known as standard B, penetration and chip seal. The end of the egress easement shall also contain the means of emergency vehicle to turn around. The turnaround shall be in accordance with the 2003 IFC and current Yuma County policies. Number 3, within 5 years of approval by the board, the owner shall submit certification from a licensed engineer confirming that the egress easement referred to in item 2 of the schedule for development was constructed according to the standard B penetration and chip seal. Number 4, within 4 years approved by the board and prior to approval of the land division permit, all that shall be provided with means of irrigation and access to irrigation water prior to development of any of the existing parcels. The owner applicant will submit a letter from the irrigation district to the Department of Development Services confirming the statement above. And number 5, within 5 years of approval by the board, the property shall be split by means of land division permit in accordance with section 507 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. As I mentioned, there was a conversation between the applicants and the engineering department. And this is the result of that conversation. Now the engineering department will support this rezoning and recommends denial as long as they comply with the items on the box. It says the engineering department recommends approval of the rezoning case number 2303 with the following conditions, 1, 2, and 3. You like me to read those conditions?
Yes, because I can't
Sure.
see them.
Number 1, owner developer.
It's in here, but I can't see them.
Egress to extend the existing road improvements along Corso Caballo Lane to the easterly limits of the subject parcel in accordance with Yuma County Public Works Standard Detail Number CO 20-10, which is
it's
on
in
your
here.
left.
Never mind.
Yeah, I provided an Exhibit A.
Yes,
this
yes,
morning.
yes.
Number 2, owner developer shall submit application and obtain an encroachment and grading permit along with the improvements plans identifying the above road improvements. And number 3, the owner developer shall secure an egress access easement from parcel number owner 74763/027 or parcel number 74763/028, since the proposed private easement road improvements encroach on either parcels. The applicant was contacted with this proposal and they agree to these conditions stated by the engineering department. And if the board approves these, staff only will amend the 3 first conditions of the schedule for development in bold. So we just amended to show this proposal. And it'll be, instead of the ingress on number 1, the easement should be 50 feet. And it should be from either or parcels. Number 2, now we added also along the grading and encroachment permit, and to extend the existing road improvements along Corso Caballo Lane to the eastern limits of subject parcel in accordance with the Yuma County Public Works Standard Detail Number CO 20-10. See attached Exhibit A, which is the one that was provided to you this morning. And number 3, within 5 years of approval, and we just, the licensed engineer shall submit a certification letter now stating that the improvements were built according to the Yuma County Public Works Standard CO 20-10. Item 4 and 5 remain the same. Mr. Chairman, the applicant is present, and also the engineering department, Arturo Alvarez from staff is present. And with that, staff concludes presentation.
Any questions for staff?
Right, so at the beginning, sorry, Mr. Chairman. So at the beginning, the staff recommendation was a no, because there was no way to get to the property. You had to go through an encroachment permit. The encroachment permit that was basically going to be denied because no more than 20 lots are supposed to be made available or part of this subdivision, correct?
I will,
Am I too far off?
standard, yeah, I will allow Arturo Alvarez.
Arturo, the idea was that there was really no way to serve this property because there was a cul-de-sac at the end of that and there was nothing. So this design that I was given this morning solved that issue, at least in theory, right?
Alvarez, Engineering Department, that is correct.
So now staff will say, okay, that issue has sort of been dealt with. Not necessarily resolved, but it's been dealt with and it's part of the requirements for this property to be rezoned. Now, is there because we go through this all the time, is there a reversion clause at all? I guess when we do the rezoning, we can't put a reversion clause on it, right? It reverts back if some of those things aren't met, right? The 5-year development plan, those kind of things, correct?
That is correct, but that's something that PM Planning can address as far as the reversion.
The other question, well, an attached question to this is the fact that once you open that up, it also allows the property owner on the other side to actually ask for another rezoning because you're actually allowing more than the 21 that was supposed to be allowed originally, and that access road is going to serve more than one property, correct?
That is correct. By doing this and we're going to get a paved roadway instead of a gravel or a chip seal roadway.
Oh, I get that. I get that it's an issue for us. The two things that are an issue for us. One is allowing more unimproved, unpaved roads in the county. But the second one is access to those irrigation districts. And that's already dealt with. Access to the irrigation district, to the irrigation water is available to these properties, correct?
That is correct.
It will be,
And
yeah.
second, we are getting a paved access road that connects that to the cul-de-sac. So we're not gonna have to go through the property there at the end, which is a property that I think that based on what it looks like from the air, you're not gonna be able to get a local street to go through that to 4E, I think it's 4E.
That is correct. The subject property is bounded by canals on the east side and on the south side.
Would be too expensive to try to go through the canals to have access to it. Right, I just wanted to get a better sense of it. So some of the issues that were an issue before have become sort of worked out. And that's what they wanted the additional time to try to work something out, correct?
Correct, yes.
All right, okay, that's the extent of my questions right now, Mr. Shaw.
Any other questions for staff? Do we want the
Applicant? The applicant?
Any questions for the applicant?
Is there applicant here?
Yeah.
Where is Mr. Sack? Oh, there you go.
Hi.
Are you, oh, sorry.
I'm Lucy Johansson. I'm Zachary Oxford's wife.
So are you okay with all the requirements?
Yeah.
You have accepted there. Is there any opposition from the neighbors around there? Does it rise to any opposition at all? that we need to consider? There's no opposition? All right, I don't have any questions, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open it up to the public if anybody.
Is the other applicant here?
Or which one? Do we have another applicant?
Or is it just one?
Just one?
Just one.
One, no, the other one already promised she would be there, but that's an issue for
just-
playing.
Anybody from the public? Because it's a public hearing. Seeing none. All right, come bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, on rezoning case number 2303, one of the rare cases we're giving people time to work it out, seems to have worked out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to go ahead and approve rezoning case number 2303 as presented with the restrictions as stated.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve rezoning case number 23-03 with the recommendations. Any other comment or question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, minor amendment case number 23-02. Javier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Javier Barraza, Senior Planner. Can you also open rezoning case number 23-05, which is?
I'll go ahead and open item number 3 also, rezoning case number 23-05.
Thank you very much. This is a request to change the land use designation of a property, 2.5 gross acres in size, from rural residential to agricultural industrial, located in the Yuma Valley Planning Area, northwest corner of Somerton Avenue and Sunset Street in Yuma, Arizona. The intent is to accommodate the rezoning of the subject parcel from suburban ranch 2-acre minimum to light industrial 2-acre minimum. This is the land use map and vicinity showing the subject parcel, crosshatch, parcel 95 at the center of the map. Land uses on the north are low-density residential, and on the west, agricultural rural preservation. Land uses on the south are agricultural rural residential, as well as on the east. This is an aerial view showing the outline in red, the subject property, and the current development of the area. No comments received from property owners within the notification area. Planning Commission recommends approval of a minor amendment case number 23-02. I will now present rezoning case number 23-05. As I mentioned, this is a request to rezone 2.5 gross acres in size from suburban ranch to light industrial 2-acre minimum. The intent is to establish a contractor's yard for an excavating company that is nearby. This is the zoning and vicinity map showing the subject parcel, crosshatched and highlighted in red. The property is currently vacant. Access on the east along Somerton Avenue, which is a paved road. Parcels 88 through 91 are zone manufactured home subdivision, 20,000 square feet minimum, improved with manufactured homes. Parcels 80 through 87 are zone rural low-density residential, 20,000 square feet minimum, improved with a mixture of site builds and manufactured homes. Parcel 36 to the northwest is zone R120, improved with a site build. Parcel 34 and 35 are zone RA40. Parcel 34 is improved with a site build and also in ag. Parcel 96 to the south is on suburban ranch, improved with a manufactured home. And parcel 97 is on light industrial, improved with a manufactured home. Parcel 14 is on local general commercial, improved with a metal shop that serves to maintenance of buses for farm labor. Parcel 41, it's a zone C2, and it's a vacant parcel used for the storage of equipment. It's owned by the applicant. Parcel 64 is on general commercial, improved with a site built dwelling. Then we have parcel 47. It's the location of the Yuma West Trailer Park. It's on manufactured home park. Parcel 46 is on local commercial, improved with a site built dwelling. And parcel 65 is on general commercial in agriculture. This is an aerial view showing, again, the subject parcel outlined in red and label a few properties with the different uses other than residential. The view looking south at Somerton Avenue. Now looking west of the subject property from Somerton Avenue. Looking east from the center of the subject property. And now looking west. No comments received from property owners within the notification area. The Planning Commission recommends approval of rezoning case number 23-05, subject to the following performance condition. Number one, within 60 days of approval by the board, the owner agent shall do the following: provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an infrastructure disclosure statement, record a range disclosure statement, and record an agricultural disclosure statement. Mr. Chairman, that concludes staff's presentation. Ready to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
What's the basis of the staff's recommendation for denial? What's the real basis? I mean,
For the minor amendment of the rezoning.
Well, if you don't approve the minor amendment, the rezoning becomes moot. So, and that's the reason you tie them together, because if one doesn't go, correct, the other one won't.
Staff recommended denial of minor amendment case 23-02 based on the following. The amendment is not consistent with the existing character of the Yuma Valley planning area. The amendment does not represent an overall improvement to the plan and will only benefit the landowner. And the amendment does not address an oversight, inconsistency, or inequity.
Read that one again, the second one.
The amendment does not represent an overall improvement to the plan and will only benefit the landowner.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair.
most changes are like that. That one is not a new one to me.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that.
Most rezoning cases that benefit the owner. But that's okay. I just wanted to get a clear sense.
Why does that opinion, because my grandmother lived across the street right there, that area, this would be an overall improvement in the area.
Can't see it.
Elevating the character of that. So why insert that opinion?
The area is residential, is for residential, the existing use. However,
it's mixed because there are businesses.
Those mixed.
I know it well.
Correct. Those uses are predate the plan. So their existence before that. And yeah, there are commercial and industrial uses along residential.
Any
Yes.
development in that area is going to elevate the character of what you see.
In this particular case, it's just going to be, just a contractor's yard, the storage of equipment.
Yeah.
But it could be developed into a more intense use because it's on light industrial.
Because most of that area is weeds. Okay.
Yes.
It's what, wheat?
Weeds.
Oh, weed.
Scattered vegetation.
Maggie, you want to say something? You look like you want to say something. You're ready, okay.
She's ready.
Any other questions?
No.
I just,
From staff.
whose opinion was that?
From the plan.
See,
Can we restrict opinions?
My opinion, tell him, Maggie, it's my opinion. No. Yeah, that's the nature of the reason.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. So that is staff's analysis of the case, and that is staff's basis for recommending denial of the minor amendment and the rezoning case. As you see on the vicinity map that shows the existing land uses or land use assignations in the area, directly to the north is low-density residential. To the south is agricultural, rural, residential, actually south and northwest. To the west is agricultural, rural preservation. And bringing in that land use designation of industrial changes the character of the area. Although there's existing light industrial zoning in this area, it was in place prior to the adoption of the comprehensive plan back in 2001.
It does change the nature of the area.
There's a tortilla factory next door.
Well, let's not go there. But, I mean, it does change the nature. I do understand.
Improves.
Staff that can't make the political decision or the looks decision. You make that based upon what you see in a map like that. And I do understand sometimes staff is going to have a different perspective, right? And your perspective is more based on what you see there in the map.
And Mr. Chairman, once you change the land use designation and the zoning, it will not be limited to just what the applicant or the current owner is intending to use the property for. Other light industrial uses could be established in that area once light industrial zoning is approved.
Okay, well, let me answer that. In the 24 years that I've been here, I've been told there's no such thing as precedent that legally applies. I've been told that every zoning case is an individual case and it's resolved individually. So that changing of the whole thing, I know it happens. I know that technically it's very difficult to say yes to an individual and no to the next one that's basically facing the same thing. But it's not impossible, and it's more a planning and zoning commission recommendation that comes to us and a staff recommendation. You may continue to say no, and the planning and zoning may continue to say yes. And us, we get to say at the end, we follow either that recommendation or recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, that statement was based on the subject property itself, not potential.
Well, but you mentioned the potential of that decision in the future. You were the one that mentioned. Well, but for the area.
The whole comment is subjective.
All right, for the subject property.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if we allow that to be light industrial, then since the 2001 comprehensive plan, we have not allowed anything other than residential in that area. Am I correct?
Mr. Chairman, there have been no other requests to change the land use designation.
But there's
Land use
existing,
designation.
and it matches the character.
What's he want? What do you want, Martin?
Your grandfather developed Sunset.
The street?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your district?
And that's all residential?
No, it's mixed.
Oh, it is?
All right.
Any other questions for?
Open it up to the public.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and, is the applicant here? You want to hear from the applicant?
My name is Doyle Bodine. My residence is 2258 South 42nd Avenue here in Yuma. I've owned property across the street there for about 30 years. There was much discussion about the nature of the area out there, and I agree with staff that this zoning doesn't comply with the plan that is in place there. But if you go out there and look, you'll find that this is absolutely consistent with the character of the area. I own a contractor's yard across the street. I own both those two contractor yards there. My neighbor Hector works on buses there. The Herreras, who are south of me there, own that property, and they've sold mobile homes out of there and all kinds of different things, along with having a tortilla factory. I do believe that this will improve the area. Our plan is that we will put a block wall all the way around this property except the front, which is just the same as we've done with the other contractor yards, because we want to be good neighbors, and we'll landscape it. That's just kind of what we do. The plan is to make a contractor's yard, so there'll be ABC over the whole property, and how much exactly we use it, I'm not real sure. We're looking to the future to be able to. We're running out of room in the yards that we have now, and we're just looking to the future to make things available for us in the future.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question for legal. No, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Golan.
you.
I have a question for legal. Does this have to be done separately, or can it be done in one single motion? Two separate motions?
Mr. Chairman, there are two separate actions, so we need two motions.
All right.
One for the minor amendment and
All right.
one for the rezoning.
I'm ready.
All right.
You're ready.
I'll go ahead, since it's a public hearing, I'll go ahead and open it to the public. Anybody from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. All
Mr.
right.
Chairman,
Yes.
on item minor amendment number 2302, I'll make a motion. Go ahead, approve the minor amendment.
I'll second it.
There's a motion to approve, any second to approve minor amendment case number 23-02. Any other comment, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve rezoning case number 23-05.
Isn't your grandmother's parent?
She's passed.
Boy, I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to
I know,
rezone
you're
case
right.
number 23-05. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4.
We don't know who applauded, but it was fine. It's okay. We don't know. It just sounded like somebody applauded. But it's okay. We take those anytime.
Public hearing for text amendment case number 23-01.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Text amendment.
Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. This is a text amendment to change section 609 of the zoning ordinance. It's the recreational vehicle zoning district. And specifically, the sections that will be affected will be section 609.02 and 609.04. The proposed changes are on the slide here, shown in strike and bold format. Changes that are proposed to be added, or text that is proposed to be added in bold font, and then strike that is in font that is in strike through font is proposed to be deleted. So the intent is to change section 609.02A by stating one single-family residence per parcel limited to a recreational vehicle, manufactured home, or site-built home. However, if a parcel was zoned prior to May 1, 2023, and is at least 6,000 square feet in area, the property owner may have one additional recreational vehicle. And then section 609.04, the intent is to add the text in font. Maximum density cannot exceed 5 lots per acre in RVS districts zoned after May 1, 2023. Mr. Chairman, the Planning and Zoning recommended approval, and that concludes staff's presentation. Staff did this. I did distribute a letter that I failed to include in your packet. It's from Juan Leal Rubio, and the gentleman is here to provide comment about the letter.
We'll take him under the public.
Any questions for Maggie?
I think that, just to summarize it for people who may not understand the technical aspect of this, what we're trying to do is limit the number of RVs that can go into the current designation. So, and that's why you May 21st, what did you say, May
1st.
May 1st. That's why the May 1st statement is there, to make sure that people who got a zoning before that understand that that changes the use they can give of their property. We're very cognizant of the fact that most people want to use property in different ways, and that always rezoning benefit the landowner for one reason or another. Most people ask for rezoning because they want to change the zoning so that they can do something with their property that they're not allowed to do currently. So this RV rezoning is the outcome of those meetings that we've had, where we try to make sure that out in the foothills, people understand that those times where they could develop 400, 500 units are gone, to us anyway, and they should be. That area down there has taken a lot of development altogether very fast, and the impact of that has been felt throughout the whole area down there. So this is our effort to try to avoid that from happening.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank, there was a lot of people that were involved in making this change, public, Danny Bryan on P&Z, and it came to light with that massive rezoning they were trying to do along South Frontage. And right now, it's just the roadways already are overcrowded out in the foothills. The density is running rampant. So hopefully this is a way of controlling the density, give the county a chance to maybe catch up on roadways and dealing with the traffic issue, as well as water issues that are continuing to be forefront with development out in that area. So everybody that's been involved with this, I just want to thank you for the hard work you put in.
Thank you.
And without leaving that, especially those people who took an interest in making sure we knew that what you wanted.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Maggie, I have a question. There's some land that's already out there that's been rezoned, but it hasn't been developed. Will they have to follow these rules?
Mr. Chairman, any the property that was zoned RVS prior to these changes can continue to develop under the previous the changes that were in effect prior to the changes that are taking place today.
Let me answer that a little bit and go further a little bit with that
There's
answer,
a
because
huge-
everybody that needs to do something over there needs to come through the planning and zoning commission. It needs to come through us, to the board. And I think we made it clear we're not going to approve any kind of plan that goes to that density, at least from my perspective. I don't know about the rest of you, but
Okay.
yeah, I think we made it clear. And I think by making this change, we've given them direction. We don't want to see those massive, plans, because that's what happens. They bring their plans based on the ability they can. And they will tell us that they won't do that much development. But the problem is that once we rezone a property to that RV zoning, that's what they're allowed to do. Not exactly what we will approve they do, but that's what they're allowed to ask for. So this is more guidance, especially because from this point on, from the point we approve this text amendment, those will be the rules, and people will know what to play with or how to play with this. And I want to thank Mr. Rubio. I know we haven't gotten to the public section of the agenda when we talked about people who want to help. I've read his comments. They're pretty well on point. And I wanted to make sure he knew that although he doesn't work for the county anymore, we do appreciate his thoughts and the thought process that he puts into it.
Mr. Chairman, just to reiterate, there are numerous properties in this area that are already zoned recreational vehicle subdivision that are undeveloped.
Yes.
So those properties will continue to be in the future if they
can.
approach the county for a subdivision plat or whatnot, they can use the property under the current regulations.
Yeah, we're going to be facing some of those issues
Can
pretty
we, well,
soon. Deny, yes.
okay.
And not be subject to lawsuit.
Yeah, we would be subject, yes. I
Go
know.
ahead and
Okay.
open it up to the public.
Maybe they'll reconsider doing it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Juan Rubio, I was going to get my title, but I don't know.
A citizen, huh? Yeah.
Yuma, Arizona, 85366. Okay, so, I mean, what I'm hearing here is that RVS and foothills. RVS is not only in the foothills. RVS is countywide. So what we're trying to do here is we're only focusing in the foothills. But our RVS is countywide. The changes that you approved today will have an effect. I'm sorry?
Or countywide?
So remember, we
I'll say
think
cities.
outside of foothills. In the years that I've been that I worked for Yuma County, RVS, in my opinion, was ahead of its time. It was an RVS district that worked. It created a thriving community, which is the foothills. And the trend right now nationwide is to go more dense because it gives a lot of more amenities to communities. That is the trend nationwide. In fact, the city of Yuma is actually, they use the RVS zoning district to promote this type of density in areas close and in proximity to the foothills. So RVS is actually a good zoning. I mean, I'm sorry, Mr.
No, I just wanted to ask, Mr. Chairman, before you moved on from that, does this have an impact on the accessory dwelling units? And because that's one of the code changes that the city is considering, the state is also pushing it, just because of the cost of housing.
Well, I cannot speak on behalf of the city of Yuma, but in Yuma County, if you already have 2 dwelling units, there's no provision that would allow you to apply for a third under an accessory dwelling unit because you already have the right to have 2 dwelling units.
But it will affect density, correct?
Correct. So regarding the letter that I wrote, we have to let's look at 609.01, the purpose of the RVS zoning district, which reads, the purpose of this district is to provide orderly development of subdivisions accommodating our recreational vehicles as well as manufactured homes. So that is the intent of this district. Manufactured homes, RVs. Of course, site builds are allowed. And what I've noticed is that the trend or the right to have a site built in an RV seems like, it was more, these subdivisions were now being developed more as site built homes. Okay? The last time a subdivision was approved that allowed RVs as principal dwelling was, I believe, El Rancho Encantado, Unit 3, which is back in mid-2000s. Okay? But again, this is not exclusive of the foothills. This is a zoning district that could be used anywhere in Yuma County. My recommendation would be that the board consider leaving the RVS as is and creating a new zoning district. The changes that are being proposed are very simple in paper format, but the effect that it will have in Yuma County could be considerable. Because remember, this RVS district has been in existence since the 70s, and it's created a thriving community. So let me go over some of the points. Stakeholder review number 1, the current RVS zoning, which allows 2 dwellings per 6,000 square foot lots, is no longer useful to current developers. In the foothills, baby. Under the new proposal, parcels in the RVS zoning district will have to be no less than 6,969 square feet and limited to 1 dwelling unit, site-built, manufactured home, or RV. A parcel with a size of no less than 6,969.6 square feet could be best used to accommodate site-built dwelling, which is what happens, since development trends prove that a parcel of this size could be seen as unattractive for a property owner or developer wishing to install an RV or manufactured home as a principal dwelling unit. We see it happening. A typical RV has an average size of 300 square foot and is less than 399 square feet. Similarly, an overwhelming 60% of parcels intended for manufactured homes in Yuma County are zoned MHS 4.5, smaller lots. Based on this analysis, it is safe to assume that site-built homes will typically be built on bigger lots, and RVs and mobile homes will be installed on smaller lots. Under this new proposal, RV lots in the foothills plan area could potentially be eliminated. This can happen. A good percentage of the foothills plan area is already zoned RVS, 31% in fact. For 6 decades now, the RVS zoning district has allowed for good, orderly growth in the foothills and has offered its residents, including retirees, the housing opportunities that they seek to live in a site-built home, manufactured home, or RV on a permanent or temporary basis and have an extra RV hookup for guests or family. It's worked well. The intent to allow 1 dwelling unit, site-built, manufactured home, or RV on a minimum 6,969 square foot parcel could be best accomplished by creation of a new zoning district versus modifying the existing RV zoning district, which could potentially, again, eliminate the opportunity for the development of subdivisions accommodating RVs or manufactured homes. The commission and board should consider leaving the existing RV zoning as is, so Yuma County can continue offering this development opportunity to future developers who seek to promote subdivisions accommodating RVs as well as manufactured homes with that extra RV hookup, which have served the needs of the Hoodle residents well for all these years. And again, like I said before, the city of Yuma has adopted this RV zoning district into their code, and it mimics the Yuma County RV zoning district and has been used continuously on new development within the city of Yuma municipal boundaries that abut the foothills planning area. Now, this also reminds me of back when there was a concern of the suburban set build and suburban ranch 2-acre lots that were in the noise zone of the airport district. The board adopted, the board didn't modify those. The board actually, the staff worked on a new subdivision to limit the accessory dwelling unit in the noise zone. So the SSB and the SR worked well. It's only in those areas that in the noise zones. So what staff did, staff created a new zoning district to serve the needs of those parcels in the noise zone. We didn't modify those. We created a new zoning district, and it actually works. So now in the noise zone, people that want 2-acre lots, the board, I guess, would be supportive of that zoning district, which is called suburban homestead, that does not allow that accessory dwelling unit as a provision for a special use permit.
Right.
So I see this the same way. Create a new zoning district. Leave the RV as is.
Are you reading this?
We have the
Are you reading the whole thing for the record?
I'm sorry?
Are you reading the whole thing? Because if you're reading the whole thing, put the timer on. He's not an employee anymore.
Okay, stakeholder review number 2. Neighbors and elected
He's
officials
gonna
are
read 2 pages full of small print.
approving RV zoning requests due to the remote possibility of 14 dwelling units per acre. Again, I mean, I'll just summarize. The trend is more density. As resources become more scarce, you don't want bigger lots. You want smaller lots because you have the infrastructure already there. You have water, you have sewer, you have roads.
Correct.
Okay? So that is the trend nationwide. So stakeholder review number 3. Yeah, I agree with that. They've been trying, all these subdivisions have been using deed restrictions to regulate, RVs not being allowed as dwelling units. I've never agreed with that. I mean, but that's the way it's been done, and it shouldn't be done that way. So unless you have any specific questions for me.
Right. I'm just going to make a few comments. Can I?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Really quick? I mean, try to be as quick as possible. I don't agree with almost anything you said, Mr. Rubio, but because I'll tell you why. Whatever worked for 60 years in the foothills, it's not working now. See, when you talk about countywide, you're forgetting that every jurisdiction can play their own rules, can make their own rules. We only run what's outside jurisdiction. So what the city of Yuma does, city of San Luis, city of Somerton, city of Welton, we can't control. But what I think right now is that what has happened in the past is that rule, that high density rule that really created the foothills, is just not what they want anymore. Now, I understand that there is a need to have a zoning like that, and we may, there's 31% of people who can come and ask for that zoning designation that can do that kind of design, but they can come over and ask permission. I think that at this particular time, the time for that type of zoning, that high density zoning, is gone. Now, it doesn't have anything to do with density. It has a lot to do with infrastructure. There's the washes are running higher than ever. The city, we won't control it, won't support it. I know that when they do come up with a plan, they're going to have to come up with a plan to deal with those things. I understand that that's part of the process. I just don't see that kind of a perception that we had in the past that the foothills was going to become these thousands and thousands of RVs with guest houses for the people. I think that what they're looking at right now is quality of life issues. They see that the roads are full, that they can't drive around anymore, that creating another 1,000 lots with another 1,000 RVs isn't going to improve their quality of life. They see washes running and taking off some properties with them. They see that and they're reacting to that. That's my perception. I understand that you come from the planning perspective that we could actually create a new RV designation. But that would simply tell the developers that they can continue doing what they've been doing for years, according to what I think. So it's better to tell them how to plan the future, because I think that the horse has left the barn in those 31% of properties that are already zoned for that. They have to come here and tell us how they're gonna do it for us to approve it. I do understand what you're saying, the 2 acre next to the range worked for us because we set it out that way. But it takes it takes coming to the board, because people just ain't doing it because we have a rule. They still can come to the board and ask for permission to do it, which we continually deny 99% of the time. So I tend to agree that maybe creating a zoning designation would be a more appropriate long-term solution. But what we're trying to do is give those people right now some sort of certainty about what's going to happen over there. And that's what we're trying to do by changing this, modifying this thing here. I don't have a problem with whatever Yuma does or whatever San Luis does. I understand that urban is different than county. People go out in the county and they expect to have county living. People went out to the foothills and expected to see RVs. I mean, that's what you expected to see. But at a certain point in time, that got a little too wild for even us to deal with. So I think we're trying to deal with it the best we can. I appreciate your thought process in terms of making that change into another zoning designation. We may do that, but that takes months. And I think we need to give these people guidance right away. Even those people who want to use their property the way they want it to, they need to know what we're expecting from them. And we're not expecting small 14 lots to an acre type situation anymore, at least not from my perspective. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't think we can deal with that kind of 60-year prior successful development. That's how the foothills got developed, but that's not how the foothill wants to go now, from what I see. So thank you. I do appreciate all the thought process that went into writing these 2 pages, and I've read them. Right.
I mean, just closing thoughts. I agree with you, Mr. Supervisor Reyes. Just that, matter of taking this back to the commission and reconsidering. Maybe creating a new zoning district. It's a matter of months. I mean, you're making a decision here that's going to have an impact for years to come, and we're only focusing on the foothills. We need to focus in the entire county. So months versus, going back a few months back, taking a look at this, and eliminating an RVS zoning district. If the decision you make today, if you eliminate that RVS zoning district, again, it's going to have an effect. Personally, I would rather go back 3 months. Let's start again. Let's look at, a new proposal, and I think that would be the smarter way of going. Do you have any other questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Rubin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other from the public?
So I just want to address the board with a few facts. Number one,
State your name and address again.
Again, okay.
Social security number, the checking account number, your birthday.
For this item.
Checking account, no. Walt Bonneau, 14698 East 40th Place, Yuma, in the foothills. Just a couple of corrections, and I've read every document multiple times that we have in terms of this zoning, rezoning, et cetera, et cetera. Number one, just to make a correction, RVS does not allow you to build a home, put an RV on it, and live in it. You can put an RV and live in it, but you can't have 2. You can plug your RV in to keep it charged and everything else you need to do, but it's not for living. That's clearly in the regulation. Second of all, this reason for this rezoning modification of 609-02 and 04 was to be in compliance with the 2020 plan, where it was clearly stated by the 30,000 plus people in the foothills, we don't want higher density. I have to share something with you. 80% of our residents are from California that have built stick homes, that want those stick homes, that want decent lots, that are tired of putting up with California's high density bullshit. And that's the reality of it. They didn't come here to be crammed into little corners. So, and this thing about everybody moving high density, true for cities, not true for most of the suburban counties. So I don't know where that comes from, but I think you ought to go Google that a few times and find out about high density and where it's being proposed. All right. Second of all, I think Mr. Reyes said it well. I think Mr. Simmons said it well. I know the rest of you are aware of it. You know, bottom line is we need this county a breath of fresh air and to take a pause so we can catch up with the infrastructure. I mean, the growth has been great. It really has. And to see what's happened in the foothills where people are converting their RVs to stick built all over the place. Just go out there. It's stick built. And yes, there are some nice new manufactured homes too, but people no longer are just buying property to put an RV on it. They actually have decided to live here permanently and then take that piece of property and put a regular home on it, if you will. Well, the bottom line is we need to pause a little bit to build the infrastructure so that we have water flowing. I think it was well stated that we have sewers that can handle the problem, roads that can handle the problems. And to be frank with you, we've still got a huge problem with just our commercial side of it. I mean, in the wintertime, it is impossible to go to any place in the foothills without running into long lines and crowds and parking issues. So with that, I just say that, you know, I think it's time that we correspond to what the public has been outcrying in that part of the foothills. And I just want to remind you that the foothills, as you well know, is about 30,000 people. In the winter, it exceeds 64 to 65,000. We are almost paralleling the size of Yuma City. But we don't have near the infrastructure to deal with it. We have one new park, thank you, gentlemen and lady. But Yuma City has 13. Yuma City has 50 PSI water. We have 28 on a good morning. You go to Yuma, when I've walked around Yuma in different places, I don't smell sewage like we do in the foothills because our system can't cope with it right now and because the pipelines simply are not flushed correctly, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this modification does not stop RVS. It simply puts a practicality in place to allow us to build a community with some quality of life maintaining in order for us to encourage more people to come and be added taxpayers for homes that are going to be there permanently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Medeiros, 6045 East 43rd Street. I didn't come here for this discussion today, but listening to it, the high density that people are looking to increase to only advantages to one person, the developer, okay? And if the county is having problems, especially in the foothills with water, and they want to increase that by putting more people in there, then make the developers pay. Let them foot the bill for additional water, additional storage, and additional roads, okay? To put it on the backs of the rest of the county because a developer wants to put more units on a particular site and wants to have more of the RVs going in there, okay? That should be on the developer, not the people of the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Selye. My APN number is 728-07001. I live out in the foothills. I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, what everybody went through to try and put this together. I understand where it came from. But if I could ask a simple question, why are we trying to use RVS for stick builds? The idea behind the foothills and what Hank Sheckert had in mind was to keep people close together and to keep that density working for the residents out there. Now, I understand trying to limit the size of those lots was to create this larger development that this person was trying to rezone in the past. And I was very against that. You guys all know that. I spoke at that meeting. However, if you change RVS for the future, you're going to change it for all of Yuma County. And not only that, we should be asking ourselves, why are the developers trying to get to RVS instead of using R16? We're turning RVS into R16 with this plan. The only difference, if you really look at the two, is setbacks. The setbacks and the amount of infrastructure are really the only differences between RVS, if you're going to build a site-built home, and R16. So if we turn RVS into a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot minimum, we're basically doing the same thing. So why not ask the developer to develop what he's actually doing, which is R1. He's building one stick-built home on one 6,000 square foot lot. Let's not change everything about the foothills, the character from that, and the vision that Hank Sheckert had about that community forever by changing this. There's clearly other ways to do this. I am obviously against extreme density. We have traffic and infrastructure problems. We can address those. But if you look at where RVS lands on the land use chart, it's supposed to be used for medium density and urban density development. It's supposed to be used for things that are more density. That's what it was designed for. So I would ask you to please, instead of changing this, let's reshape what the developer is doing and change the setbacks for R1. That makes more sense for the longevity of Yuma County. Thank you.
May I? Not as an answer, because I don't think it needs to be an answer. No, wait. Not as an answer, because I don't think that needs an answer. I think that what we need to do is just take our time and assess why we're doing this. We're doing this to give the developer some guidance about what we want. Yes, the change implies that the number of square foot that you need would be higher, but you would be able to place an RV there. Now, when you talk about urban versus rural, I think that's what you're having in the foothill. You have a rural setting with an urban density. That never works. It worked for a while, you know, when you have all these developers, Hank, Shepherd, whatever. You know, it worked for a while. Then we got to a point where we had to make a decision about density, and then it hit the wall because it just doesn't work anymore. Now, I understand the need to have an RB designation that applies to maybe the rest of the county, but I don't think that that means that you simply forego the idea of managing some growth, slowly managing some growth. I do consider the fact that we may have to go back and reassess whether we have to have an RB3, because we have 31% of those lots that are going to need some guidance. And they're going to still come to us wanting to do whatever they want to do with the density. It used to be in the RV section. That will be back. I think it should have it back there for people to have a guidance. But we need to make everybody understand you just can't go on doing this high density stuff over there in the foothills and not expect something to give. And what gives is exactly what we're talking about. Infrastructure gives. You know, it needs to be addressed soon, now. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to address, I think, an issue that came up and bit us, you know, in terms of, and I don't want to get through all the stuff that we went through at that meeting. All I want to say is, look, this is a reaction to a need that we see. It's not a closure of an issue. The issue will continue to be okay. If we have this kind of zoning, if we still have RBS zoning, which we won't after this, it will be higher. But I would not have a problem considering RBS at a smaller density. But I don't think anything that allows for 14 units is going to pass through me. I've been here for a while. I think I can say that. It's just not, I mean, it might have worked as an experiment and it worked for a while, but I don't think it'll work almost anywhere else in the county. Every place that I can think of urban can make their own rules. Every place that I can think county, it's just not going to work unless it's the foothills or someplace out in the mountains or someplace out in Martinez Lake where they may still have use for an RV that is higher density than that. And I do understand that not everything is the foothills here. You know, there are some land holdings in Martinez Lake. There's something about Welton and the surrounding area there that we need to deal with. Tacna. We have to deal with that. And I understand the need to stop, reassess, and do something. And then at the same time, think about it long term and consider the fact that RBS was a zoning that may work, or is a zoning that may work someplace else. I do agree.
Maggie, you had a comment?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, Mr. Chairman. So if this change is approved, the recreational vehicle zoning district will continue to allow recreational vehicles. It'll just be limited to one recreational vehicle per parcel, or one manufactured home per parcel, or one site-built home per parcel.
Thank you. Sounds good. Anybody?
That's what I wanted to say, so.
Yeah. Anybody else from the public? Now bring it back to the board, close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. And I'll just say a comment that, you know, when I hear that water or sewer, the county does not deal with water or sewer. Just so that you're aware. County does not deal with water or sewer. That's
Well, we do deal with the problems, we just don't have water and
I
sewer.
mean, we're not.
We're not providers,
We're
is
not
what he said.
providers
We're not
of
providers of
water
water and sewer. We're not even providing power until we go solar.
Mr. Simmons.
But you can make it worse.
Yeah.
We can.
You know, we looked at this when it came to light. I think right now this is the best fix for the problem. Down the road, we can look at doing the RVS. Like I said, TACNA, it's a place where RVS would come in handy for growth. But right now with the water issues, which are going to be years down the road, heavy subdivisions as far as mobile homes and stuff, I don't see happening. A lot of the stuff on the mesa that we see growing, those are 2 and 5 acre parcels. They're not setting them up for mobile home subdivisions or whatever. But right now, RVS 5, I think, is the answer to try to get a grip on what's happening, not just in the foothills, but countywide. And like, we may come back and revisit it again down the road and come up with another zoning, setup that would fit for
We'll
other
let you know.
things. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve the text amendment case number 2301.
I'll second.
I just want to comment, if I may. The comment is that obviously this doesn't solve the issue or deals with the issue. This kind of directs the issue a little bit better on the foothill area. I do want to direct staff to bring it back as an RBS zoning that we may want to tinker with that. I think that allowing as an RB in a 2,000 square foot lot is just not going to work over the long run anywhere in the county. We need to come up with a size that people can live with, that is still affordable, that can still be doable. I think 6,000 is too big for, an RB. It just allows too much space to be there, but it allows us to sort of manage this situation. I think over the long run, we need staff to start coming back up with some sort of an RB designation that sort of works for places like Tacna or Welton or other places outside the foothills.
And Mr. Chair, we also need to look at setbacks and why there's those differences and see how we can work with those as
I
well.
just wanted to direct staff, not to let it end.
There's a motion and a second to approve text amendment case number 23-01. Hearing no more comments or questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
Is that an
I
opposed?
oppose just because it applies to the county in general.
One opposed.
Yeah.
Let's move on, let's move on.
All right,
I've been there.
legislative issues.
Mhm.
Item number 1.
Thank you, everybody. If you need to move, it's fine. We'll just give you a couple of minutes. It's a little boring after a while. Alex, give it a second till people clear out a little bit. When we got rid of it, we're gonna open it again.
Go ahead.
Chairman, members of the board, Alejandro Figueroa, Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs for Yuma County. I'll be presenting the update on legislation. So the state legislature finally sine-died. Arizona's 56th legislature completed its first regular session work and adjourned on Monday, July 31st. After 203 days of legislative session, making it the longest session, the Senate and the House passed 345 of 1,675 bills. Legislation from this session will go into effect 90 days after July 31st. I'd like to go into Senate Bill 1102, which is also known as Proposition 400. The Arizona legislature passed the Maricopa County Transportation Tax Question, seeking to extend a half-cent sales tax known as Proposition 400. The bill won bipartisan support after negotiations between Governor Katie Hobbs and GOP leaders. The tax is estimated to raise $14.9 billion with 40.5% going to highway projects, 37% to transit, and 22.5% to arterial streets. The plan phase debates over funding allocations, prioritizing roads over transit, and removing climate-related provisions. Light rail expansion will not happen, though funds were allocated for maintenance. The tax question is expected to be on the November 2024 ballot, and that will release or save us from having to fight Maricopa County for her funds and transportation-related funds.
Let me ask you a question. This is a statewide question, right? It applies to Maricopa County, but it will be a statewide question.
No,
It's a Maricopa County.
It's only Maricopa County?
Sense.
Yeah, I know that it only applies to Maricopa County, but what I'm asking is, the legislature passed this so that it allows people in Maricopa County, residents of Maricopa County to vote, or did they pass a bill to allow the whole state to vote on this?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, it's only for Maricopa County.
I know where the money is going to be
It's only
used.
for Maricopa County residents.
It's just for them to vote on.
the
Okay.
legislature didn't want mass transit, so they passed legislation back when that made Maricopa have to pass this sort of thing for them.
The implications for our county is that if it hadn't passed, we would be looking into competing for funds with them, transportation-related funds.
If it still passes, if it doesn't pass.
Well,
maybe-
the polls say it has broad support from Maricopa County residents.
Yeah.
Moving on to Senate Bill 1131, also known as rental tax. Governor Katie Hobbs signed a Senate bill, a GOP-supported bill that prohibits municipalities from taxing residential rentals, which will take effect in January 2025. Previously, she vetoed a similar rental tax bill in February due to concerns that it burdened struggling Arizonans and lacked guarantees of passing savings to renters. The rental tax varied from 1.5% to almost 3% in cities imposing it. The legislation is expected to remove over $230 million in revenue collected annually by the majority of Arizona cities and towns.
We in the county don't have a rental tax, do we?
That I know of, no. Administrator? I didn't hear the question.
Well, the question was whether we had a rental tax, the county did. We don't we? I mean, not a set-aside rental tax. We may have a state rental tax, but.
But the cities are going to.
It is.
Moving on.
Alejandro, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that on our property taxes, rentals are taxed higher than owner occupied. That won't have anything to do with it, will it?
Supervisor Pancras, we'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
I don't have the answer.
Okay, because that will impact us if that's in that bill, so, okay.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, only the cities, the League of Cities and Towns were in opposition, so the counties did not, as far as I'm
Okay,
concerned,
so
express any opposition.
it must not be part of it.
I think it was neutral. Didn't they say something neutral?
The CSA might have, yes.
I believe that CSA said neutral.
Oh, then it doesn't, okay, because we would have been fighting it big time.
Right.
Okay,
It will impact the city of Yuma.
yes, I know, yeah, big time.
And that's why they're giving until January 2025 for the cities and towns to figure out another way of bringing that money in.
Yeah, okay.
Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has asked the state's power companies to provide details of their action plans to prevent outages and assist customers during emergencies, following a couple of weeks of extreme heat in most of the state. The invitation to companies to a roundtable meeting to improve grid resiliency, home weatherization, and energy efficiency in preparation for future heat waves. APS, SRP, Tucson Electric Power, Southwest Gas, Mesa, and electricity cooperatives all received an invitation. I would also like to share with the public the Yuma County Board of Supervisors will be sending an appreciation letter to our state legislators, thanking them for their support during past legislative session. Moving on to the federal update. Arizona Senators Kirsten Sinema and Mark Kelly announced that they secured major Arizona defense priorities in the bipartisan annual defense bill, the National Defense Authorization Act, which was passed by the Senate a couple of weeks ago. The defense bill makes critical infrastructure upgrades to military installations across Arizona and raises service member pay to support military families. The Senate will now negotiate with the U.S. House of Representatives over a final defense bill. As you can see on the screen, it includes funding for the Barry M. Goldwater Range, for the YPG, and for the MCAS.
Only a fraction compared to what Luke got.
Is it?
Congress went into recess last week and will not be returning until early to mid-September. And it is now believed that the focus, once they return to session, will turn to the 2023 Farm Bill, which is set for reauthorization this year, but widely expected to be extended into early 2024. Both the U.S. House and the Senate are looking to release their respective drafts later this summer. This bill has far-reaching effects on rural capacity building, good neighbor authority, and farm safety net programs. Moving on, the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs approved Arizona Senator Sinema's Border Patrol Enhancement Act, which is co-sponsored also by Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, a bipartisan legislation improving Border Patrol agent overtime pay and sets Border Patrol staffing based on their needs. The Securing America's Ports of Entry Act, which is co-sponsored by Senator Sinema, is also bipartisan legislation. The bill addresses CBP Office of Field Operations staffing shortages at the border by authorizing hiring of at least 600 CBP officers every year for 5 years. And a handful of Western U.S. senators, including both Arizona senators, introduced the bipartisan Colorado River Salinity Control Act. This legislation increases the federal cost share for the Colorado River Salinity Control Project. And last thing I'd like to mention, and you all know about this, Senator Sinema held a couple of roundtables in Yuma County, one for first responders and local leaders, which was attended by both our chair and vice chair, to examine and develop solutions to the ongoing border challenge impacting Arizona border communities. She then held a second roundtable meeting with economic developers, city administrators, members of the private sector, and the U of A to discuss federal funding opportunities for the region.
Before you leave the federal issues and the congressional recess, is there a budget resolution that they have to work out before the end of September? That is supposed to be the focus of them coming back?
Yes.
I mean, you know, we talked about the Farm Bill, which is fine, but if they can't get together before September 31st and decide on a budget bill, we'd be looking at government shutdown. I think that should be mentioned as
Or a continuing resolution.
Or a continuing resolution. Just wanted to make that point, because I think a lot of people may only find out through this that we're looking at them coming back and having maybe half a month to work this thing out.
Supervisor Reyes, they are scheduled to be back September 12th, so that only gives them a couple weeks to work it out. On the international front, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors has been invited to tour the San Luis One Port of Entry. The invitation came from the General Service Administration, and the tour will take place on August the 16th. Supervisors are encouraged to reply to the calendar invite and provide the information requested by GSA. Lastly, and I would like to invite Arlene Galaviz, who is the Communications Director for Yuma County. She doesn't mind joining me up here. We're both part of the Forefront ED staff, and in coordination with the City of Yuma, we're working to host the City of Mexicali's Economic Development, Public Affairs, Arts and Culture to Yuma County on August 11th to explore collaboration opportunities that would further the relationship between our county and the capital city of the state of Baja California.
There's an agenda. We're still working on some details. There might be an opportunity for a luncheon, some packed lunch. Did you want me to talk about the other events as well? And so in conversation with Mexicali, we're coming up with an agenda. They also wanted me to, and Alejandro, through Forefront ED, invite you to a couple of events that are coming up. And so we don't have full details, just an idea. And so you guys can kind of start considering it and put it on your calendar. And so it's going to be the opening to the Fiestas del Sol, which is going to be the 29th of September. And it'll be the day when they honor all the dignitaries. And so it'll be the mayor of Mexicali. They'll probably invite all the cities as well, and they'll invite the Board of Supervisors, which we are in conversation right now. And then there's a possible press conference for the bike ride in Mexicali, which is something that they've been talking about since last year. It's going to be tentatively October 3rd, and so it'll be held either at their cultural center or their like health and wellness division cultural center, which is right now what it's looking like. And then they've also said that they would like to invite the board to the State of the City, and it'll be the Mexicali mayor's last State of the City, and so it'll be a big event. And so we don't have the exact details for that as well, but they said please consider the first or the second week of October, and those are the dates that we've kind of been given. So, do you have any questions for me regarding these events?
Just a question that goes more to what's been happening over the last 20, 30 years. It is obvious to me that in the government, in the Mexican government, counties do not exist. So it's been a struggle all the time trying to make them understand the levels of government here. Even in the groundbreaking, there was only 3 levels of government the United States has, which is a mistake. There's actually 4 levels of government. So maybe because of your presence as opposed to whatever was in the past, I feel it again, I feel the need again to start interacting a little more with our sister city of San Luis, Mexico, as the San Luis, Mexico city is actually what this county is. It's got a bunch of small municipalities. It's unincorporated areas, delegaciones. So maybe it's time we start educating the other side, the news media and everybody else about the fact
Or the cities themselves.
or
Mr.
the
Chairman.
cities themselves, about the fact that there is another level of government here that most of the time gets ignored because there simply isn't one similar to it in the Mexican side. I know it's a tough situation to deal with. I think Mexicali is starting to deal with it because of the sophistication level, and they do deal with Imperial County. But in this side, I think we need to pay a little more attention to what's happening across the border. We certainly are impacted by whatever they do, and I'm sure they're impacted by whatever we do, especially when it comes to immigration issues. So I think we ought to start making a little bit contacts. We did it in the past. I know that Susan Thorpe, when she was the city or county manager, we had some meetings, some prior meetings where we thought to get the health departments together, the public works departments together, so that they could deal with issues that impact both sides of the border. Whatever it is that we can do to help them, they can do to help us with some of these issues. I think we should start looking at establishing better ways of communicating with them, because whenever there's a problem, there was a saying we used to say that whenever the United States got a cold, Mexico got a big flu or something. No, wait a minute. I think it was a cough. Mexico got the flu or something.
Yeah.
So, and I still feel that there's a disconnect there. They still think that San Luis, Arizona is their counterpart in San Luis, Mexico. It isn't. It's a county. Yuma County is their actual counterpart. But that gets lost in the media, and it gets lost on the actual communication side. It's about time we start doing a little
Mr.
more.
Reyes, it even gets lost between our cities here.
Yeah.
When they only recognize us as human leaders.
Well,
So yes, and so in part of some of the conversation, we were explaining the difference and we were highlighting the differences. And so I do agree with you. I think that if we start attending their events and explain ourselves and make them understand like the different levels of government. I mean, there's events where they bring people that their positions don't exist in our government. And so it's just getting familiarized with the names, the titles, and the positions that we hold.
As former mayors, I forgot already, but I'm sure the Somerton mayor here will tell you that if you say you're the mayor of Somerton in the other side, you will get a lot more attention than if you say you were the chairman of the board of supervisors. Although in reality, there's a lot of difference.
And even the cities in Yuma County.
Even in Yuma County, the cities. I mean, if you invite the mayor of Welton, you got it set.
Yeah. Well, they have invited us to a lot of events, and so hopefully.
Well, Mexicali, I think, is a little more sophisticated.
We'd like to
but
coordinate that for you and make it happen and make sure that you all attend.
One last thing, and I think that this was sort of funny at the beginning, but look, we have a security issue that is starting, a drug issue that we need to start working with these people. The county sheriff needs to pay a little more attention to the crime section, as opposed to the immigration section of all the time that gets covered. It gets plenty of coverage. The immigration issue gets plenty of coverage. But the fentanyl, the drug interdiction, the security issues are not getting enough attention. From what I'm concerned, between the county and the city of San Luis, they need to be working a little closer together, I believe, including hazardous disposal, those type of things that used to be critical between cities, I think should be critical between counties and the cities. Right?
And just a comment on, you know, why I think the county was or left behind most of the times with the cities and our partners on the south. When I was a mayor in something, even since when I was in council, there was a lot of participation from the cities, but not from the county.
But you didn't get invited.
No, oh yeah, no, believe me, they were invited. I was there, and believe me, the county was invited, but was never. I was a no-show. They were too high up, or believe, I think, I don't know.
Well, we were too high invited to attend the little cities.
But a lot of the participation that was going, or that it was only the cities, not the county. I mean, I don't know why, but you know, the county kept, you know, decided to keep a low profile, or.
Well, I think you're gonna find too, with law enforcement, they worked a lot with San Luis.
Yeah.
I know the sheriff's office
Yeah.
does. The media just doesn't pick up on it, or you don't see it as
That's
much as
because-
you know, you might think you do, but I know the sheriff's office does a lot of work down South County with San Luis.
Well, we just
as a
approved that
forefront,
task force, so-
Forefront started when I was a mayor when it started. The county was invited, they decided to not participate. So
we
just
can change that now.
as,
There's the
you know, so,
opportunity.
yeah. So, I mean, now we are part of it now because it was just a continuous, I said, why not? And Tony tried it, Mr. Reyes tried it, and he said, no, you go in.
You go ahead and do it. Yeah.
But, well, that was the attitude back then too. No, just kidding.
Mr. Chairman, it's an alpha thing.
And I just wanted to briefly address the fact that we have spoken about the fentanyl as much as we have spoken about some of the illegal immigration challenges. And to case in point, that was one of the major topics of discussion that I'll report on when the chairman and I participated in the roundtable last week with Senator Sinema. So I'll wait till then, but I just wanted to make sure that we get that inserted there.
Anything else for any questions?
No, I think so. I think we gotta move.
Thank you, Lean. Alejandro, you still?
Chairman, I'll move on to the potential policy proposals for Yuma County to submit to CSA for their consideration. The first one, and I mentioned this in the previous meeting, it's a Coconino County proposal that they're asking our support on. Obviously, they're much more prone to have wildfires within their county than we are, but we still have them in this county, and we're asking, apparently Coconino County reached out to the governor's office seeking funding for this line item, but they received no response back. So after a couple of years of being funded up to $140 million, the fund went down right now to less than $6 million. So Coconino County is asking for other county support and going to the state legislature and requesting at least $35 million in this for this fund to help prevent wildfires. They're saying it's much cheaper to prevent than to deal with what happens after a wildfire in their county. So I have Mr. Russell. In case you have any questions or comments.
Morning, Chairman Porches, members of the board. Russ Hartley with the Yuma County Office of Emergency Management. The county has received, not the county directly, but agencies within the county have received funds from this. One of the issues with this funding is the entities have to purchase the items and then they get refunded after it's been approved. So in Yuma County Public Works received over $14,000 for a sandbag machine, which was used during our last hurricane that was downgraded and then downgraded and downgraded. Helps them fill their sandbags quicker, saves on manpower. And then the city of Yuma, they were able to get a drone for $7,000, some swift water rescue equipment for over $13,000, personal flotation devices over $5,000, several radios, it's over $14,000, and then they recently got approved for a UTV, which was over $27,000. Again, excuse me, the city of Yuma is one of those bigger entities that has that money. I think maybe something could be put in this bill if it does get approved for more funding that allows those smaller entities like our Welton, TACNA, Martinez Lake Fire that just don't have the funds, excuse me again, to purchase these items up front. Again, you have to get approval, then you have to buy it, and then you get refunded or funded the money. And there's those smaller entities that I don't think took advantage of this just due to that not having that upfront funding. The Yuma County Office of Emergency Management Director, Tony Batia, he put this funding option out to all agencies within Yuma County. And again, it was only Public Works and City of Yuma Fire that ended up getting items off of this. Again, if there was something that could be put in place that allows those smaller agencies to get that funding to purchase the items instead of having to purchase it up front, I think Yuma County could actually get a lot more funding out of this budget item. Any questions?
Yeah, we need to support it, yeah.
We're asking for the support of the Board of Supervisors.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an action item, so it will require a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we support the policy proposal, Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management Wildlife Emergency Response Funding.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to support Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management Wildlife Emergency Fire Response Funding. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Moving on to the second one, based on the request of the board, we've continued with the help of the Department of Development Services, to look and explore into different options for the ag exemption, and how we can remove biosolids and other waste from that specific exception rule. And I think we have Mr. Craig Sellers here, Director of Development Services, to support me on this one.
Good morning, Chairman, Porches, members of the board. Craig Sellers, Director of Development Services. Per your direction, we looked at what changes we can make to statutes or propose that would open up county input onto waste coming onto, in this case, agricultural lands. As you're aware, the state exemptions on permitting and zoning and so forth are very broad in their exemptions and prohibits us from requiring permits on a number of agricultural items. And looking through that section, when the marijuana rules were passed, it is explicitly listed out. And so what we're proposing is to add another explicit exemption for non-site generated wastes are not considered ag exempt. And that would potentially make it to where we'd be able to bring that for you for special use permits and so forth. We have not gotten with the other counties yet on this, and so we don't know what the impacts and ramifications of other groups would be, but we wanted to get this up in front for discussion and starting that process.
Mr. Chairman, And Alejandro and Craig, thank you very much for considering that. Can we ask you to work with Dunn's office specifically as it relates to the other counties that were in opposition to our original language? And that we can mitigate some of the challenges up front, take those head on, and get their cooperation and buy-off as well. Because Pima County and Mojave County are in receipt of some of these same biosolids coming in from out of state.
The benefit of using this approach is each of the counties, in my opinion, would be able to use the permitting processes and oversight to say, yes, we do want it in our county, no, we don't.
May instead of shall. Mhm.
Because though it's trash and objectionable to a number of people in Yuma County, there are places in the United States where this is a big business for them. And so we want to make sure that those decisions are local.
Mr. Chairman, Alejandro and Craig, how do we mitigate some of the other challenges long-term? Because we know that we will continue to address this every year. But how do we address some of the challenges when California designates, for example, everything as a carcinogen, and therefore they cannot dump in their state, and then that makes Arizona a dumping ground? How can we address that now going forward so that we can kind of head them off at the pass, figuratively and literally? I know that we can't interfere with the Interstate Commerce Clause, as it has been explained to me so many times.
I agree.
But how else do we address this?
Some of the discussions that we're having with some of the state agencies and so forth is, with speaking with ADEQ last year, before the change in administration, we had looked at, is there a way that they can put fees on the import of the materials?
Big fees.
There's some discussion that Nevada and Utah have some programs like that. I don't know anything beyond that point. There are opportunities administratively for ADQ as well, that when they are dealing with their level of permitting, the rules on how the public input are done could be changed administratively. And an example of this, if you recall, one of the expansions of the biosolids in South County, all that was required by the rule was a notification that it was being done.
Correct.
And so we've contacted them about those items as well. State land, we've contacted them about their leasing programs. It's our understanding that those are being looked at as well to see if this truly is one of the beneficial uses of state land, particularly where the leases are there. What's going to come next? When these leases are up, what's the next thing to come on, and what impact does that have on the desirability of that? And then we're meeting with CSA and looking at the options on how we can address some of the items.
Mr. Chairman, Alejandro and Craig, we've just seen a recent example of ADEQ's willingness to allow a permit to be granted to a hazardous waste processing facility. However, our threshold was higher, so how can we work with ADEQ to assure that they're looking at it from our perspective and their threshold meets our level of toxicity for the county?
They have a public, that permit did have a public outreach. We responded to that public outreach, and hence the condition was placed on that permit for that, to get the local permits.
I think we need to define the difference between what we're dealing with and what we get to deal with.
Correct.
We get to deal with special use permits, which is the normal way we get to this. But with an agricultural exemption, we can't touch it.
We can't touch it.
So the idea to change the statute to provide a carve out, something that says, if you're going to put waste of any kind in any place, it needs a special use permit. It needs to go through the county. That is, to me, the simplest way we can approach this, and it's going to be the toughest way, because I know the agricultural industry is not gonna take it lightly. Because anything you carve out of the agricultural exemption makes them feel like they're under attack. But we've gotta, in some way, balance out the benefit of the people versus the benefit of the farmer. I mean, there are some things that the farmer can do with this land that I don't think we have any really reason to go after. I still remember the time we brought in building facilities for farm workers, and it was, it was a no-win situation at the county. You have to remember, most counties represent rural areas, not urban areas. So rural areas are mostly driven by agricultural land. So it's very tough to get an exception carved out. Cannabis was one of the recent ones that really took a long time for it to cook up. Now, this should be an issue of us wanting to be part of the process of permitting, not necessarily saying we don't want any waste. We just want to say what kind of waste and where. And that's it. If we insist on being the ones making the final decision, taken from ADQ or other places, I think we're going to end up in the losing end of an argument, because I think some of the counties may not go along, especially Maricopa and Pima County. I think what we need to do is say, look, guys, all we want is the county to be part of the
They didn't support our proposal last time.
That's right. And that's what I mean when I say, if it's may, and if it's a permissive statute that simply allows the county to have a part of the process, not be the process, but be a part of the process, I think we have a higher chance of being able to get it through some of those reluctant counties. But if we can't get Maricopa County or Pima County to come over, we're going to be in deep trouble. And we never make it about agricultural exemptions, because I can tell you right now, that's a loser in this state. Okay? So don't make it about agricultural exemption. Just say we want to be permitted to go through this process, so we can take what residents say and want and be able to make that decision, such as we do with other waste.
Tony, would it be feasible to look at the agricultural exemption as they are applying it right now, specifically to the dates?
Don't use agricultural exemption at all. Just simply may we be allowed to permit it. Okay? Don't say you want to carve out an exemption from the agriculture. Just simply say, look, we just want to be permitted to have a part of the process. We don't care if ADQ gives them a permit. We don't care if they get an EPA permit. As long as they have to get a special use permit from us, it allows us to do what we did, stop it.
Okay.
But don't talk about an agricultural exemption. That is a major carve out.
However, without
the carve out.
The carve out on the agricultural exemption, it is completely exempt.
Because it's ag.
Because it's ag, and that's why I was concerned about that.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
That's true, it's ag, and we have no control
Just
whatsoever.
don't just focus on that. I mean, have it as.
Do you have any recommendations from our county attorney's office?
John, do you have any ideas? What we can do?
Be happy to meet with staff.
It's really tough. It's like the military.
Thank you.
I have one more question before. Do we know if U of A got that grant to be able to check our water down?
Mr. Chairman, I know this is under legislative action, it's broadly worded, but we need to be careful to keep things reeled in.
It's what we're going to offer at CSA. It's
I
really
understand that, but for the public's purpose, they have a right to know ahead of time with some limited detail what will be discussed, especially if you're going to start taking legislative action.
Don't we publish this?
But this is published as legislative action.
I understand, but if you look at the subject of what it is, it's simply legislative action.
It says legislative policy proposal, waste and agriculture exemption.
Wouldn't that be broad?
For example, if you look at the approval, the board motion you made prior to the approval for the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management issue, nobody knew what that was coming up today until they saw this.
No, I agree, but this one is actually listed as proposal form water and agriculture exemption rule.
I'm just trying to get it
I get it.
But keep it in as much, because it's easy to get into discussions where you get in the cusp on the edges and the penumbras of these subjects.
It did say that. It said legislative policy proposal form, forestry and fire management.
And waste and agriculture.
But it's in, I think that's in the attachment and not in the agenda itself.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
And as discussed by members of the public, that's what they look at.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Can we address that in the future by
So we've met with ADQ and CSA, and the timeline here is a little bit hard to deal with because we have the ad hoc committee that's going to be conducted during the fall, led by Representative Dunn. We're trying to not interfere with that work, and he still have a seat at the table. That's where we're going to be discussing the best management practices for biosolids statewide. That's one thing. So the CSA is saying you can approve the form as it is, the proposal as it is, or we can just go as far as, very broad and say Yuma County seeking staff support from the association as we work to identify an actionable solution. That's something that we can submit now, and it wouldn't really interfere with what CSA and Yuma County are doing as far as biosolids, or we can try to refine the proposal. They granted me a couple of weeks more to refine this proposal if we need to. We just need to be cognizant of, the work that has already been accomplished and what we are working with Representative Dunn on, which is finding best practices across the state.
Mr. Chairman, Alejandro, one of the previous discussions when we submitted this last time, I had met with the director of ADEQ, Misael, so that we could specifically address PFAS. And I would like that to be a part of that, if that's feasible in that abbreviated time frame.
That would be a way to get it.
Because he said you could address it through the PFAS through rulemaking, but it would be best addressed through the legislature, specifically our water challenges.
That's why.
Is that broad enough, Mr. County Attorney? Is that okay?
He's best, yes.
As I said, I haven't given it much thought. I will get with staff later and then system in this.
Okay. Misael said that would be the best way to approach that. Following up on the conversation with Marine Corps Air Station, they also noted that, and that was tested for in some of those wells, but the water coming off the mesa doesn't pass through that area. It goes back into those wells that are pumped back into Colorado for ultimate delivery to the end user.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Thanks, Alex.
Well, and I'll just say, here comes the conference at CSA, and let's talk to other supervisors, especially Maricopa and
Pima. Tony, you have Pima.
Mr. Chairman, just to make sure our staff is getting the right direction, are we going to approve this proposal at this point in time, or are we going to wait a couple of weeks to refine it? I mean, what are we?
Can we insert what we've discussed today into the proposal?
And then I can send it back.
Correct.
Okay.
Sounds all right.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the waste and agricultural exemption discussion with CSA, Rep. Dunn, to include everything that we have discussed today, including PFAS, and specifically PFAS.
I don't know what the context of your motion is, but
well, so that we can explore the contamination of PFAS in the water as part of the waste and agricultural.
I mean, that's direction. I mean, I didn't think you needed a motion for that, but hey, fine. I mean, I don't really think that's a big issue.
Well, there's a motion and a second. Is
this okay within the context of what we published?
Or just direction?
I would prefer you just give direction to staff at this point. That way it's not binding.
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my motion. Waste and agricultural exemption with direction to staff regarding everything we discussed today.
There's no motion. You're just directing staff to do that.
We'll direct staff.
Just withdraw your motion.
Okay. I withdrew my motion.
And my second.
I'll make a new motion.
You don't need to make a motion.
Just direction.
All right. Alejandro has it.
Thank you.
Don't count.
What you want. They know what you want.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Event calendars and current events.
Okay.
Lynn?
Yes.
No.
I attended YMPO. I was on the executive director's evaluation, so I went to that, and I attended the NACO conference from the 20th to 24th. I spoke at the local Southwest Gas luncheon here to the employees. I attended my YMPO meeting. I had a Zoom meeting with the owner and the lobbyist and the attorney for Sidco. I went to KWC and spoke about the Sidco project. I met with a constituent concerning the Sidco situation, and that's it. NACO conference was took up most of my time.
No, it's.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you
No,
wanted
no,
to
no,
say-
not the same.
It's right.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I had the opportunity to meet with lots of different constituents regarding most everything that we've had on our discussion today. Also co-hosted with you, Senator Sinema as part of the roundtable, and the sheriff, although we weren't recognized, where specifically we would, and I'll just keep giving that back to the city. Specifically, we did talk about fentanyl and the work that the sheriff does with United States Border Patrol and education of youth to avoid the cartel influences of smuggling, where we've seen that prevalent. And then obviously the county handles all of the overdose deaths. And the sheriff continues to encourage parents to be involved in that discussion. Also had that discussion as I hosted presidential candidate and sitting Senator Tim Scott on Friday, helping him to understand not only the illegal immigration, but the fentanyl and other border challenges, etc. And I will cede my time.
Mr. Simmons?
So you had a PSPRS and court meeting, attended Mohawk Irrigation District Board meeting, attended Antelope High School Board meeting, and another special meeting that they held. Met with the interim superintendent at Antelope, just discuss issues, trying to get them set up for the new year after going into receivership and getting things going. Several meetings with constituents over several of the items that were present today on our meetings. Like to thank Pat Eddington. Went out with him and we toured the Agua Caliente solar project and the McFarland solar project out in the Hyder area. They're doing a lot of extensive expansion on the Agua Caliente project, and it's an eye-opening thing to see what they go through out there to put all this in. So thank you, Pat, for that, and that's about it.
Right. Well, we all seem to have attended, some of us anyway, most of us have attended the NACO conference in Austin, Texas. It was a good conference. I do hear a lot about the fentanyl settlement. I don't know if it's coming or not, but
opioid.
The opioid settlement?
Yeah.
Not the fentanyl settlement, the opioid settlement that may lead us to have funding for something to do with fentanyl, which I think is more working with the stigma of addiction. We need to start addressing that before it becomes an issue we have to address. I think we need to put it in the agenda. If there is some funding coming, if there is something that we can do. I know the health department is ready to go ahead and provide NORCOM, is that what it's called? NORCOM? NORCOM. I think part of the problem is going to be getting over, like I said, the stigma of addiction and the way it's addressed. I think the deaths are regrettable, but I think that we need to have some sort of prevention and assistance program ready to go by the time we get it, because it's not going to go away on its own. I did get a bunch of calls also from the Sidco situation. And lastly, but not least, we did get an invitation to go ahead to a tour of the Port of Entry 1 improvement.
After the fact.
But well, it's better than nothing. I think things are moving in the right direction. So we do get an invitation. Those who can go should go. It's a big project. It's going to create a lot of changes in that Port of Entry. You can see them today. But other than that, it's going to be impressive for this county to receive the benefits of an improved port of entry. It will take 4 or 5 years, so that's the scope of the project, but it's a $300 million project. And it's a large project, and hopefully they'll have the information of the phasing of the project. But it's still good to realize that some of those letters do have an impact, and it's coming back. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I won't be in attendance there that day. I'll be at the Water Infrastructure and Finance Authority Board meeting
Oh,
to provide additional water assets to the state.
I tell you what, though, we complain about not being there. Let's try to be there for those who can be there.
I'll be
Otherwise,
there.
it'll be a little weird.
And just on that, don't forget to, for those of you who are attending, you got to report and send information to, I think we all got an email.
I think so.
Did you get it?
I think so. I think we got an email
Yes,
saying
you
that
have to
some
call him.
security protocols that have to be, you have to be better.
And I'll be taking a shovel for Tony.
Who shovels?
He was director of GSA. He was really apologetic about what happened, and it's talking to him, you kind of understand what he was going through. There was mainly staff that gives him the information, so he didn't have none of our names, so that's what happened. But
now we
but
have
he
somebody
wants
to do that.
But he wants to really work with us. So, and I did receive a letter from actually, his boss.
His boss.
And but also a letter from Homeland Security about the lanes. So they
react.
They did something. So it's a lot of crossings that are a little bit faster. Not there yet as it should be, but they're faster. I attended a ribbon cutting ceremony for a brand new school, Somerton School District in San Luis.
Oh.
So yeah, it's weird, but it's the Somerton School District goes all the way to the border.
Okay, let me just define that. There is no San Luis School District. There's only
Oh,
Gadsden
Gadsden.
School District and Somerton School District. There is no San Luis School District. So San Luis is split between Somerton and San Luis.
At one point, Gadsden was bigger than San Luis, so just.
And Somerton. That's scary. At one point, Somerton was bigger than anything, but who thinks
But I
about
also
that?
attended the meeting with Cinema, and she talked to the first responders and some elected officials there. I think it was a good conversation. Hopefully, something comes back.
Yep.
So that's it, Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just Supervisor Reyes, I had asked Health Director Diana Gomez to give a presentation and update to the board either at the next meeting or the first meeting in September about the opioid settlement fund. So you'll be hearing from her shortly on that.
Good.
Also attended the NACO conference, the Somerton High School ribbon cutting. We had our quarterly management team meeting a week or two ago. Attended the Somerton Mural Project ribbon cutting. Met with Walter Richter of Southwest Gas and was on PTO last week and wanted to thank Deputy County Administrator Josh Scott for being acting administrator in my absence. And that's it. Thank you.
All right.
There's a common thread in there. Sounds like Somerton's a common thread. I'm going to be looking at that a little deeper.
It's the best little city in Arizona, isn't it?
Other than San Luis, I can take it.
All right.
Gadsden.
Gadsden used to be big, but now